There's 118 legendary creatures in the Avatar set, so in this video, we're going to be checking out all the new ones and ranking them in an internet-friendly tier list. At the top, we've got Tomer favorites. These are my personal favorite legendaries from the set, not necessarily power-wise, maybe I just find them the most interesting, and I'm going to either showcase them in a future Commander Clash, or do a budget brew around them, or maybe toss them into one of my own paper Commander decks. Then we've got Great in the Command Zone. These are legendaries I think are better suited in the Command Zone. Great in the 99, better suited in the 99. Maybe these are interesting cards that I'm not quite sure if they have some cool synergy that I might have overlooked to make them good, but you know, they're interesting nonetheless. And then finally, we've got the Cabbages tier. This is just the F tier of the Avatar set. These are cards I just don't think are going to see much play in Commander, and if they show up, they're going to get destroyed. This Universes Beyond is actually an IP that I'm a fan of. I like the Avatar show. I rewatched it recently in preparation for the release of the new set. So I'm pretty hyped to see all the new cards, and I actually get the references this time, which is neat. We're starting alphabetically, and we've got a whole lot of Aangs to go through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Aangs. Oh boy. All right, let's start with the first one. Aang Airbending Master. This is a 5-mana white legendary creature human avatar ally. It's a 4/4. When it enters, airbend another target creature. Airbend is a new mechanic in the set. It means exile it. When it's exiled, its owner may cast it for 2 mana, 2 generic, rather than its mana cost. And whenever one or more creatures you control leave the battlefield without dying, you get an experience counter. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 white ally creature token for each experience counter you have. So this Aang looks like a great leader for a blink style deck. Airbending is essentially blinking with extra steps. It's not as efficient if you're just trying to reuse enter the battlefield and leave the battlefield triggers, because you still have to pay mana to get it out of exile. However, you can use this offensively too. You can remove potential blockers with this airbending ability to get in for damage, and it also just slows down your opponents because then they have to pay 2 mana to get it back. It also, not this card, but like there are instant speed airbending spells too in the set, and those can actually be used as protection spells, because if an opponent uses a removal spell on one of your creatures, you can in response airbend it, or if an opponent goes for a board wipe, you can airbend a creature to save it and then cast it from exile for 2 mana later on. So Aang offers a little bit of airbending by himself as an ETB airbend, which is quite nice, but the real payoff here is that he can pick up experience counters really, really quickly if you're airbending a lot, blinking a lot, and all that good stuff. And then when you do have a bunch of experience counters, you start flooding the board with ally creatures. And since experience counters stick on you instead of the creature, when Aang does die and you replay it later on, you don't have to like reset from square one with experience counters. You keep those experience counters, so it keeps going and going. So I think the payoff here is quite nice. Obviously, Aang's biggest weakness is he's 5 mana and he is in mono white, so you just have less cards to work with. And, you know, ramping out a 5-drop commander in mono white is a little bit harder than, let's say, if you had access to green or whatever. However, I think the payoff here is really, really good. White is one of the primary blink colors. White and blue are the primary blink colors, so you have access to a lot of really good and efficient blink engines in white, plus, you know, all the brand new airbending stuff going on in the Avatar set to supplement that. So it's really easy to load up on experience counters, and Aang's ETB ability is also quite good if you have blink abilities at instant speed. You could like instant speed cloud shift Aang and then airbend something to have like instant speed trickery going on, protection, offensive capabilities as well too. So I like the flexibility here. It's a really unique blink commander, and definitely one that I think is better suited in the command zone, but you could also just toss him into the 99 of other blink decks, and I think he's going to work fine there too. All right, so Aang number 1, great in the command zone. Aang number 2 is Aang Air Nomad. This is a 5-mana white legendary creature human avatar ally. It's a 5/4 with flying and vigilance, and other creatures you control have vigilance. So I should note while looking at these cards that there's 2 main parts to the Avatar set. There is the main set, which is standard legal cards, which is called Avatar The Last Airbender. The icon for the set is like Aang's face, all glowy. And then we also have Avatar The Last Airbender Eternal. And these are basically all the other cards. Most of them are going to be showing up in the Jumpstart boosters, and they're kind of like on-ramps for beginner players. I believe the intent is for the cards to be lower power in general. Some of them are going to be exceptions. Obviously, like mythic rare cards are probably going to be a little bit more powerful than the rest of the cards in the set, but overall they're a little bit more simple. They're overall less powerful, but not always. And yeah, so sometimes they're just not going to look very good in Commander. And Aang, Air Nomad, is one of these cards where it looks really, really good in Limited. A 5-mana 5/4 flyer Vigilance is good. The fact that you give your other things Vigilance as well is a nice bonus on top of it. But by a creature by itself, it is scary in 1v1 Limited. However, in Commander, it just doesn't really translate very well. And I don't think this card was designed for Commander anyway. But just something you got to keep in mind going forward. Not all these cards are obviously designed for Commander. So if I give them bad ratings, it's not because they were specifically designed for Commander and the designers did a bad job or anything. It's just like cards are designed for different purposes. And this one looks to me like it was designed for Limited. Now, that said, we are only analyzing things for Commander. So for the sake of Commander, a 5-mana 5/4 flying Vigilance is not that exciting. Like, yeah, it's fairly big, but it's not very exciting. Giving your other stuff Vigilance, also not very exciting. So I'm going to give it a bad rating in Commander. So Aang, Air Nomad, for the sake of Commander, it's Cabbage's tier. The third Aang is a little bit horrifying. It's Aang, A Lot to Learn. It's a 3-mana green-white hybrid, legendary creature, human avatar ally. It's a 3/2. It has Vigilance as long as there's a lesson card in your graveyard, which makes sense because Aang has a lot to learn. And then whenever another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Aang, which is awful. Like, looking at the artwork, this is Aang before he was in the iceberg and stuff and ran away from the Air Temple, and before the Air Nomads got genocided. So I guess the implication here is that he has a lot to learn, so he needs lessons and stuff to become the Avatar. But he also gets stronger because all his Air Nomad friends died. Is that the implication on this card? That's awful. Please let me know your interpretation of what's going on here. I hate it. That said, though, card is not very good in Commander. I think Aang is powerful in terms of he will cause me emotional damage when I look at this card, but power-wise, not very strong. Next Aang is actually a duo. It's Aang and Katara. It's a 6-mana Bant legendary creature human avatar ally. It's a 5/5, and whenever Aang and Katara enter or attack, create X/1/1 white ally creature tokens, where X is the number of tapped artifacts and or creatures you control. So, if you want to poop out a lot of ally creatures, this is one of the best ally token generators you can dream of, right? This is going to poop out a lot of ally tokens, right? 6 mana up front is a lot, but this is an enter the battlefield and attack trigger. So if you give it haste, you get 2 triggers on the same turn. If you manage to blink it, that's going to be a lot of tokens. It makes a lot of tokens. It makes specifically a lot of ally tokens. And if you're in an ally deck, you very much cherish having allies entering, because allies as a creature type cares a lot about just like allies entering the battlefield. You get a lot of triggers from that. And then just like, you know, if you're go wide allies or whatever, there's a lot of things that pump up all your allies specifically. So you want to get as many allies on the battlefield as possible. And this is one of the best ways of doing it. Now, that said, is this better in the 99 or in the command zone? I think it's fine in the command zone. It offers a lot of value no matter where it is, but I think it's much better suited in the 99. Typically, for commanders, I want something that is either like super high impact, which Aang and Katara kind of is, or is like an engine you can get online a little bit earlier to help you in the early to mid game. And that's usually like cheaper commanders that, you know, offer ramp and card draw and stuff like that, stuff that will put you in a position where you will have a big board of tapped creatures and artifacts, and then you can play Aang and Katara and get the value from it. This is more of like a mid to late game card, I imagine. So I think you're just usually better suited having a commander that will help you set up for that mid to late game. And Aang of Katara, just because it's 6 mana and requires more setup, a board already set up for it, I think is much better in the 9/9 than the Command Zone. All right, Aang and Katara, great in a 9/9 of any ally deck. Also, basically any go wide tokens list, like it's just making a lot of tokens, so that's great. The next Aang is also a Bant Aang. This is Aang at the Crossroads. It's a 5 mana Bant, legendary creature, human avatar ally, and it's also a transforming Aang. So the front sign is a 3/3 flyer. It says when it enters, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a creature card with mana value 4 or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. When another creature you control leaves the battlefield, transform Aang at the beginning of the next upkeep. And the back sign is Aang, Destined Savior. It's also a legendary creature avatar ally. It's a 4/4 flyer. And land creatures you control have vigilance at the beginning of combat on your turn, Earth Bend 2. So this to me reads as a payoff for more of like a Blink style deck. Aang's enter the battlefield ability is quite strong. If you have, I would say like 20 plus hits in the library, which is pretty easy to do for most decks that want to be going Blinky style, then Aang is going to be enter the battlefield, get a creature, put it directly onto the battlefield. That's good card advantage. That's good mana advantage. And it's also a little bit of card selection too, if you have more than one option available to you each time you hit with Aang. Then the leave the battlefield trigger is also quite good. It's more like a mid to late game type effect where once, you have a bunch of creatures on the battlefield, if you're going specifically for like a land style play where you're doing a lot of earthbendy stuff, animating your lands, then there's a cool anthem and also like further adds more creatures onto the battlefield. But honestly, the front side is just really good. Like you could ignore the back side entirely and then just build Aang as like a Blinky style deck. And then, if you don't want to keep reusing his enter the battlefield ability, or you run out of blink effects, right? You use the last ability, have something leave the battlefield, flip him over. He becomes a little bit bigger. He hits. He hits for a little bit more damage. He starts earth bending a little bit. So that's quite nice. So that's how I see Aang. Mostly, it's like a blink style deck where you're focusing primarily, 90% of the time, you're focusing primarily on the front side because the front side's ETB ability is so strong. And then when you're running out of blink effects and stuff, then you blink maybe the last creature, you sacrifice something, then you flip him over, and you start smashing people with the backside. This Aang is also great in the Command Zone. I mean, it's also great in the 9/9. I think as long as you have like 20 or more creatures you can hit with Aang, like mana value 4 or less, which is like most creatures are going to be running in Commander, honestly, then it's just going to be this really good card advantage card advantage, mana advantage engine, because it puts it directly onto the battlefield, which is really, really good. Next, we get to my favorite Aang. This is Azorius Aang. Aang Swift Savior. It's 3 mana Azorius, legendary creature, human avatar ally. It's a 2/3 with flash, flying, and when it enters, airbend up to one other target creature or spell, and then it has waterbending 8, transform Aang. The backside is a big old blobby guy. It's a 5/5 reach trample. Whenever Aang and La attack, put a +1/+1 counter on each tapped creature you control. Yes, I know. That he's not just a blobby guy. He's like merged with the Moon Spirit or one part of the Moon Spirit and taking revenge on the Fire Nation and whatnot. But he's a cute little blobby boy. That's the main thing. Anyway, so I really like this card. It's not a commander. I mean, it could be a commander. You could just like also put this in the front of like a blink deck and you could be very, very annoying that way. But I just like the flexibility of like this as like a pseudo Venser. Like an OG Venser. Except this one's 3 mana instead of 4. It has flash, it has flying. It's basically just like this really cool combat trick / pseudo counter spell on a creature. It enters the battlefield, and then if somebody has a spell that you don't want to resolve, it's kind of like you remand it. You bounce it into exile, and then they have to pay 2 mana to recast it later on. You can also protect your own creatures too, or airbend a creature that's attacking you for lethal. It's super flexible. The front sign is super flexible. The backside, again, feels kind of almost like fluff to me, where like it's good, it's nice, it's added power to the card. It's a very strong like late game effect, right? Like when you're in the late game, you have the 8 mana or enough stuff on the battlefield to water bend it. Suddenly it becomes a 5/5 reach trampler and is growing your entire army. It's a great finisher, but I just feel like the backside is just not needed for the card to be good. You know, like the front side's already very, very good. The backside is an extra bonus, which seems to be a recurring trend with a lot of the Universes Beyond stuff like Kefka's and whatnot, where like the backside, it has the backside, but the backside is kind of just a cherry on top, really. The front side, very, very good. I really, really like this card, not as a commander, but just like throwing it into a bunch of decks that want to be playing creatures, maybe has blink synergies and stuff like that. It's just super flexible. Yeah, I really like this card. So Aang Swift Savior is the beginning of my Tomer favorites. I'm not going to build a deck around it, but it's going to be showing up in a bunch of my brews for sure. I think in my personal collection, I have a Zedru list that is very permanent heavy because I want to like gift the permanents afterwards with Zedru's ability. So I much prefer having an Aang over like a counter spell or a bounce or whatever. So yeah, I really like this. Also, I just realized, by the way, like with Zedru in particular, I can gift away a creature or whatever, and then I can airbend it with Aang, and then I, the owner, get to cast it for 2 mana instead of its mana cost, which makes it even better in Zedru. I love this card. This card's so cool. Next, we've got Aang, the Last Airbender, another mono-white version of Aang. It's 4 mana white, legendary creature, human avatar ally. It's a 3/2 of flying. When it enters the battlefield, you airbend up to 1 other target non-land permanent. So it's not just creatures this time, creatures or spells, specifically non-land permanent. That's exciting. And then whenever you cast a lesson spell, Aang gains a lifelink until end of turn. So 4 mana for an airbend effect, I don't think is particularly like super exciting or something like that for like the main payoff of the card. But the fact that it's not just creatures makes it much more exciting to me. Being able to hit non-land permanents means you can start resetting, for example, sagas. Like if you have a saga going on and you don't want it to reach its last chapter, you can, before the last chapter would resolve, you airbend it with Aang, and then you get to cast it again for 2 mana and reuse its ability. Is it as good as like a generic blink type effect? No, but you know, like blinking enchantments is relatively rare in general, and this is one of the ways you can do it. Obviously, it's sorcery speed. It doesn't have flash or anything like that. But I just like the flexibility here. It's kind of cool. You could just airbend anything. Any problematic permanent can be removed temporarily if it's an opponent's thing, or you can reuse, enter the battlefield, and leave the battlefield of any non-land permanent you've gone. I would probably just throw this in my Zedru deck too. I don't think it's very strong. It's very specific. It's definitely not a commander, but in the 99 of some decks, it might have a home. So yeah, this is a maybe for me. I admit it's not very powerful, but I do find the ability very intriguing, and it just might be good enough for like my janky Zedru deck. But it's definitely not on the same level of like Aang Swift Savior. But yeah, I do like the flexibility here. Next, we've got Appa, Aang's Companion. A 4 mana white legendary creature buys an ally. It's a 2/4 of flying. And whenever it attacks, another target attacking creature without flying gains flying until end of turn. This is a great card for limited, for getting damage through, getting around potential blockers, going high in the air. But in Commander, if you want to give your stuff evasion, there's just way better options. So this version of Appa is Cabbage's here, but fear not. I know Appa is the GOAT of the Aang gang. He's definitely the main reason why they didn't like die on like episode 1 or 2. And he's saved them so many times. He has better cards. Don't worry. This is the Cabbage tier 1, but there's a much better one coming up. This is not the one I was referring to, but it is better. Appa, Loyal Sky Bison, is a 6 mana white legendary creature Bison ally. It's a 4/4 flyer, and it has a Titan effect. So whenever it enters or attacks, choose one. Target creature you control gains flying until end of turn, or airbend another target non-land permanent you control. Again, airbending non-land permanents, lots of flexibility. It has to be you control though. You can't just be airbending your opponent's stuff, which kind of loses some flexibility here, but nonetheless, typically, if you're in like a Blinky style deck, an Airbendy style deck, you're typically airbending your own things more than your opponent's stuff, so whatever, it's fine. This card, 6 mana is a lot. You really want to have like haste or something on it, but it does have some flexibility. It can get some evasion if you need it. It does airbending when you need it. Having both as options for you is quite nice. It's also an ETB effect too. So it has, you can blink this as well to do shenanigans. Yeah, it's good, but it's like obviously not very powerful, but I like it. Appa, this one's a maybe. 6 mana is a lot. 6 mana is a lot for this effect. It's a cool effect, but it's just a lot of mana. All right, here we go. Here is the MVP Appa that is true to the show. Appa Steadfast Guardian. 4 mana white, a legendary creature buys an ally, 3/4 flash flying. When it enters, airbend any number of other target non-land permanents you control. And whenever you cast a spell from exile, create a 1/1 white allied creature token. So this is just, save your entire board from a wipe. Appa comes in, saves the day like he always does on the show. Airbends all of them, even non-creatures too, which is kind of relatively rare. Like these type of effects where you like pay 4 mana and like save your board. Usually it saves just like creatures and stuff. All non-land permanents is quite nice here. And then on top of that, if Appa doesn't like die to a board wipe or something like that, he's sticking around, he's chilling. He's a 3/4 flyer. He hits for a decent amount of damage. Whenever you're casting a spell from exile, you're also making a bunch of allied creature tokens. This is just like, this card's great. Like, it's great. It saves your creatures, it saves your board from removal. If there's an actual board wipe happening, you save everything but Appa, which, Appa is always the one to save the day, which makes sense. And then if Appa is still around, you can just poop out allied creature tokens. And he's also a great blink target too, right? Like, if somebody's trying to blow up something that isn't Appa, you could just like blink Appa in response and save whatever is being targeted, or like future board wipes or stuff like that. Really good card. Just really good card. And also this is another thing where you even if you're not using him to save yourself from removal, if you just have stuff with leave the battlefield triggers, enter the battlefield triggers, sagas, whatever, that you want to reuse their abilities, you can just fire off Appa and reuse it that way. So very flexible card, super flexible card, really strong, makes tokens, amazing. So Appa, I don't think it's going to be the best in the command zone. Part of the power of Flash is that your opponents just don't know whether or not you have it. And when you show that you have it, it's not as powerful. It is definitely one of my favorites. But I'm going to put it here, great in the command zone. I feel like this card is just like super, super flexible and a great pickup for a lot of different decks. All right, one final Appa. Appa the Vigilant. This is from like the Scene cards. That's where you can find this card. I think it's also in like collector boosters and stuff. Like they reprinted like the Scene cards in the collector boosters, I think, as non-foils. And the Scene boxes that you can buy as like gifts and stuff are just foil only. That's what I believe. Anyway, Appa the Vigilant, 7 mana, white, a legendary creature buys an ally, 6/6 flying vigilance. Whenever Appa or another ally you control enters, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain flying and vigilance until end of turn. This kind of reads to me as like ally Craterhoof, right? Like Moonshaker Cavalry Appa for allies. He's not like super strong or anything. Even in an ally deck, you have better finishers. Like you just run like a Cathar's Crusade or something and get like basically the same value, if not more. But if you want to be thematic, this is a good finisher for an ally deck. It's not the most efficient one, but it is a good one, and it will get the job done very easily if you are firing on all cylinders and you need to find a way to get your damage through evasion and vigilance. That means you don't even need to kill the entire table. Due to the vigilance, you could just like kill one guy, but you get the full swing, and then the vigilance means that you have blockers, so you don't die on the crackback. So Appa the Vigilance, great in 99, specifically of allies. Appa Steadfast Guardian, I feel like he just deserves to be in the goated tier, right? Like he's just MVP. So I actually lied. There is one more Avatar Ink. I think it's just the last one. I'm pretty sure. This is 5-color Avatar Aang. So, I mean, color identity wise, its color identity is 5 color due to the backside. The front side, though, you just have to pay 4 colors, everything but not black. So red, green, white, blue. 4 mana, 4/4. Legendary creature, human avatar ally. Flying, firebending 2. Whenever you waterbend, earthbend, firebend, or airbend, draw a card. Then if you've done all 4 this turn, transform Avatar Aang. And then the backside is Aang, Master of Elements. Legendary creature, avatar ally, 6/6 flyer. Spells you cast cost WUBRG less to cast, and this can reduce generic costs. So if you have like something that's like 4 and a green, you can still cast it for 0 mana with this ability. And then at the beginning of each upkeep, you may transform Aang, and if you do, you gain 4 life, draw 4 cards, put 4+1/+1 counters on him, and he deals 4 damage to each opponent. So this is the corporate mandated 5 color Universes Beyond commander that if you so choose, and you want to have just like a commander to put all your avatar cards into and keep it cohesive in a Universes Beyond in the same IP, this is your commander. Like most of them, they all have like a very high power floor. And by that, I mean that they do a lot of work. They're very powerful without really optimizing around or really building around that much. Like just as a creature by himself without casting any other spells, he's a 4 mana 4/4. He firebends 2, which you can utilize that mana, but ignore the fact that you could be using that mana. Just the fact that he's a 4 mana 4/4 flying firebend 2 means that just by himself, when he's attacking, he has evasion, so he's going to get around most blockers, so he can attack very freely. And the firebend 2 triggers, and he's going to draw you a card. So 4 mana 4/4 flyer that nugs people in the air for 4 and draws you a card each turn. That's a very good power floor, right? Like 0 building around. That's the minimum that you can expect from him to do, which is amazing. And then on top of that, obviously, the bending is like what the Avatar set is all about. So if you're bending like once, twice extra per turn, he's drawing you infinite amount of cards. The backside is kind of like a Christmas land. I played this Avatar Aang actually on Commander Clash, and just building him, I immediately knew that flipping him is very difficult and not the point of the card. The point of the card is the front-loaded front side, right? Just like being able to draw cards infinitely is very, very good. Firebending 2 is very, very good when you build around it. Being able to cast Waterbend, Earthbend, Firebend, and Airbend all in the same turn is very difficult. Obviously, you don't have to firebend because he does firebend by himself, but waterbending, earthbending, and airbending all in the same turn is rather difficult, and typically just not really worth like going out of your way to do. It will happen naturally in these type of decks, eventually, if you got lucky. And then when he does flip, that's just like a little bonus, right? The backside is also very good. He gets a little bit stronger. Your spells cost a little bit less. Or, I mean, a lot less, up to 5 mana less. That's actually very good. And then you can flip him back. Like, if you run out of spells in your hand, you flip him back and you refill your hand that way. So, the front side is basically what you can expect. And what you can expect is very, very strong. And then the back side happens sometimes. Don't force it. Let it happen organically. Sometimes it will happen. It will feel very good. You'll pop off. You'll cast all your spells you'll just dump out all your spells, and then you flip them back over, and you refill your hand, and you keep going if your opponents are still alive for some reason. Yeah, this card is really good, really, really strong. I personally had a blast playing this deck. I built an Avatar-only Avatar Aang deck, so only cards from the set, and it was a ton of fun, and even with that very heavy restriction, he did what he was designed to do, which was be very, very powerful. Minor spoilers, I guess. So yeah, I really like this card. And if you are very deep into Avatar and you want to have a full Avatar deck that is using only cards from the Avatar set, Avatar Aang will make sure that you can do so, and it will perform well at your LGS, I believe. So I know a lot of people criticize the fact that like every single UB set will have a 5-color commander, and the power floor is usually very high, and people call them boring. I wouldn't really call it boring. I do think the power floor is very high. Maybe it's a little bit too easy for these commanders to do their thing, That's something that I would possibly be worried about, that these cards are a little bit too easy to get value from. But I don't think they're boring. Like, all these bending effects are only found in the Avatar set, right? So it's fairly unique. Is it boring that it's like, oh, you do the thing, you draw a card? Yes, that is a very boring design. But I don't think this is a fair criticism of 5-color Universes Beyond commanders. I think that's just a criticism of commander design as a whole, because almost all commander cards these days, that are especially the popular ones that people seem to play all the time, are like, do XYZ, draw a card, or make mana, right? That's what it almost always boils down to. And those are the ones that are very popular. So Wizards of the Coast makes them more and more. I don't think that's a Universes Beyond criticism or one of these 5-color commander criticisms. I think that's just a criticism of commander design as a whole. I think this card is well designed for its purpose, which is you're building an Avatar deck and you want it to be all Avatar and you want it to function against other commander decks at your game store. This is great at doing so, and it encourages you to actually focus on Avatar cards because it only cares about Avatar mechanics, right? So yeah, I think it does a good job at what it's trying to do. All right, we got Avatar Kyoshi, Earthbender, 8 mana, mono green, legendary creature, human avatar. It's a 6/6. During a turn, Avatar Kyoshi has hexproof, nice. And then at the beginning of combat on your turn, Earthbend 8, then untap that land. So as you might have guessed already, there's 4 new mechanics in the set: earthbending, waterbending, airbending, and firebending. And we already covered airbending. So earthbending is target land you control becomes a 0/0 creature with haste that's still a land. Put 8 +1/+1 counters on it. When it dies or is exiled, return to the battlefield tapped. So this is just animating lands, but it is the safest way we've ever seen animating lands. Usually, like, if you turn a land into a creature and then it dies, it's in the graveyard, it's gone. But this has a little bit of like a protection against that. It says when it dies or is exiled, return to the battlefield tapped. So the only thing it doesn't really protect from is like if you shuffle it into somebody's library or if you bounce it back to the hand, then it doesn't like return to the battlefield tapped. But most common forms of removal means that the only thing that happens is the creature land now just becomes a land again and returns to the battlefield. And that is actually a good thing, because we'll be going over this later on in the video, but the most powerful way of earthbending, turns out, is not actually focusing on the fact that it's a creature. It's just like putting it on earthbending fetch lands and sacrificing it, and then having the fetch land come back onto the battlefield so you can crack it again. So just like turns your fetch lands and sack lands into ramp. That's the true power of earthbending. Kind of sad, but whatever. It's still very powerful and can be exciting if you build it as a creature way. Anyway, that long tangent aside, oh my gosh, this is going to be a long video. Avatar Kyoshi, Earthbender, not a great commander. Is interesting in the 99 of like maybe a dedicated earthbending deck, because it does earthbend 8, which is huge, and it does it every single combat. So it sticks around. You'll keep earthbending. That's quite nice. It's a good top end for like a dedicated, I want to punch people in the face earthbending deck. If you're just earthbending for the sake of like, I want to crack my fetch lands like an extra time, I want to sacrifice them for extra landfall shenanigans, this is way overkill. You do not need this. This is like only useful. Earthbending 8 is only useful if you actually want to start killing people with your land. So if you're in a killy earthbend deck, this is a fine top end, I guess. I wouldn't say even Avatar Kyoshi is great in the 99. But I don't know. If you're like a dedicated Earthbender punch you in the face deck, I feel like it deserves a spot. Then we've got Avatar Roku, Firebender. It's a 6 mana red legendary creature human avatar. It's a 6/6. Whenever a player attacks, not just you, any player, add 6 red mana until end of combat. You don't lose this mana as steps end. And then also you can pay 3 red mana. Target creature gets +3/+0 until end of turn. So this is kind of like firebending. We didn't even get to firebending yet, but firebending is basically whenever like a creature of firebending attacks, you make red mana equal to its firebending value. So if it has like firebending 2, you add 2 red mana to your mana pool, and it stays until the end of combat. So this is kind of like super firebending, where it's firebending, essentially like firebending 6 whenever you're attacking. But it also counts your opponent. So on your opponent's turn, when they attack, you get to add 6 mana as well. And this, on its general usefulness, pumping up creatures, because Avatar Roku can do that. So it can give something up to 6 power just with its own ability. And also Roku doesn't need to attack himself. Most firebenders, you have to attack with a firebending to get it. This one is just like, you attack with anything, you get 6 mana. That's very strong. And then the other nice thing is, since you could use it on your opponent's stuff, if you have red instants, you can just, spend that red mana to cast instants on your opponent's turns as well. So it can be really, really cool ramp in red in a very unique way, which I think is very, very neat. Also, you don't have to use it to cast red spells too, like activated abilities, mana sinks, Roku's own ability too. This card is really, really cool. It's flexible, it's powerful, and it's interesting. I definitely want to build around it. I definitely want to cast big scores and stuff like that off his ability on my opponent's turns. I like this card. It's really cool. Now, is Avatar Roku something that you would put in the command zone, greater than 99? I don't know, actually. This is an interesting one where I could definitely see building around Avatar Roku, but it is a 6 mana creature in mono red if he's their commander, which means he's gonna die. I mean, red's not known for protection, like board wipes and stuff. He's gonna die, and then you're sad. But I mean, yeah, I guess you could use like colorless abilities, mythical coats, and whatnot. I don't know. I'm gonna say we'll put him in the great in the 99, but I think he can also be great in the command zone too. But yeah, I think. You know what? We'll put him great in the command zone. I don't know, whatever. He's also one of like my favorites. Like I really like firebending. I think that's a really unique way of giving red more access to mana advantage, which they kind of lack. Outside of Storm, I mean. So yeah, I really like him. I don't know. Maybe I do throw him in on the Tomer favorites. I don't know. Yeah, let's throw him in Tomer favorites. And now we are on to Azula. The first one is Azula Cunning Usurper. It's a Dimir Azula. It's 5 mana Dimir, legendary creature, human noble rogue, 4/4 firebending 2. So whenever this creature attacks, add 2 red mana. This mana lasts until end of combat. Whenever Azula enters, target opponent exiles a non-token creature they control, then they exile a non-land card from their graveyard. During your turn, you may cast cards exiled with Azula, and you may cast them as though they had flash, and a mana of any type can be spent to cast those spells. So Azula's a really cool 1-2 punch. It's removal on an enter the battlefield trigger. They have to remove a creature they control, it's exiled, and you also exile a non-land from the graveyard. The opponent gets to choose what it is, but nonetheless, like if they have a creature on the battlefield and a non-land card in their graveyard, this is always going to be a 2-for-1 on an enter the battlefield trigger, which is nice. And then on top of that, you get to cast the spells that were exiled too, with Azula's ability. And she even helps you cast them, because you can cast them as though they had flash. So you can attack with Azula, you can make 2 mana with her ability, and then you can spend that 2 mana to cast the spells you exiled with her ETB ability, which is really good. That's amazing, crazy amounts of card advantage, and a little bit of mana advantage too, because of the firebending kind of pays for the spell that you're casting. This is a great card that you will definitely want to be blinking, reusing its enter battlefield ability. But yeah, I think even if you don't do any of that, 5 mana, get rid of a creature, and then gets a little bit of graveyard hate going, and then cast those spells later on if you want to. That's a lot of value on a 5-drop. That's a lot of value on a 5-drop. This card is incredible. Do you want Azula in the command zone, or do you want it in the 99? Honestly, in the command zone, this is a really great grindy commander. I would be focusing on a blink style version of Azula, or maybe like cheat death effects, to just keep reusing her enter battlefield ability as many times as possible. Keep removing, exiling my opponent's creatures and their graveyard, and just beating them over the head with their own cards. That seems very, very strong in the command zone. I think it's going to see more play in the 99, just because a lot of people don't really like going hardcore control. Like, this is a great Crim commander, and if you really want to be sweaty, I think it's a great commander and more powerful than most of these other commanders, honestly. I would say, actually, out of all of these, I'd say just like playing Azula would probably beat like an optimized Azula list will probably beat anything over here. Even like something really busted like Avatar Aang. Like if you just keep killing Avatar Aang, he's not going to do anything. And this is an instant battlefield, so you don't even care if Azula dies herself. You still get the value no matter what. Yeah. She's great in the command zone, great in the 99. But for the sake of your opponents, I would say please just put her in the 99. She would be miserable to play against, is what I'm trying to say. Next up is Azula on the Hunt. 4 mana, black legendary creature, human noble. 4/3 firebending 2. Whenever it attacks, you lose 1 life and you create a clue token. 4 mana, attack triggers, but no haste or anything like that. Doesn't make it particularly exciting. But it is kind of nice that whenever you attack, you make a clue, and then you also have the mana to crack that clue immediately due to firebending 2. So you can imagine this as like a 4 mana 4/3. Whenever it attacks, you lose 1 life and you draw a card. And sometimes you don't want to crack that clue because you can use it for other stuff. And then it gets even better if you have more flexibility here. But 4 mana 4/3, whenever it attacks, use a life, draw a card. Not amazing in Commander, but definitely it's doing unique things with firebending and making clue tokens and stuff that maybe it's worth considering in some decks. Definitely if you're like Avatar only, I put it in my own deck just, because I needed options. But yeah, I think it's more interesting than just 4 mana, 4/3, attack trigger, draw card. It does more than that. So it's a maybe for me. So this is, top of the maybe pile. If you're maybe in a dedicated firebending deck or something like that, you might be more interested in Azula. Next, we have another experience commander. There was a cycle of them, 1 for each mono color, and this is the black one. Azula, Ruthless Firebender, 3 mana black, legendary creature, human noble, firebending 1. Whenever she attacks, you may discard a card. Then you get an experience counter for each player who discarded a card this turn. You can pay 3 mana until end of turn. Azula gets +1/+1 for each experience counter you control. You have and gains Menace. So you could make like a mono black, everybody discard cards, and then you can load up on experience counters really, really quickly. But then the payoff here is that you just get to make her big when she's hitting things, which is not very exciting, honestly. Yeah, I don't think she's very good. Azula, this version of Azula is going to go into the cabbage tier, but don't worry, we haven't gone into the most powerful Azula of them all yet. Next, we've got Bosco, Just a Bear. This is a 5 mana green legendary creature bear. It's a 4/4. Whenever Bosco enters, create a food token for each legendary creature you control. Very nice. And you can pay 3 mana, sacrifice a food, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Bosco. He gains trample until end of turn. I think the ETB here is very strong. If you are a food deck playing Commander in 2025, chances are you want a lot of food. And chances are all your creatures are legendary anyway, because we're in 2025 Commander. Everything's a legendary creature. So that said, putting Bosco in a food deck, basically any food deck in the 99. He's mono green. He's not great as a commander for it. But in the 99 of any food deck, like a Samwise deck or whatever, he's just going to enter the battlefield, make a bunch of food. And that's exactly what you want. 5 mana is a lot for it. But if you really want food, he's a great way of doing so. And yeah, he can be a sack outlet for your food. You can grow and whatever. I don't really like the fact that he's just a bear, but he's a 4/4 instead of a 2/2, which is the bear stats. But yeah, I guess it's safer than like trying to make him, I don't know, like a 3 mana 2/2 and have the same abilities, because then he'd probably be a little bit too strong. I don't know. Yeah, I kind of wish he was a 2/2 and somehow the rest of it would work, so he would be bear stats. But that's my minor gripe. I think the card's amazing. The art is ridiculously cute, and he's a fine addition for food decks. Bosco, Just a Bear. Great in the 99 of food decks. Next, we've got Boomy, Eclectic Earthbender. It's a 5 mana green legendary creature, human noble ally. It's a 4/4. When it enters, Earthbend 1, and then whenever Boomy attacks, put 2 +1/+1 counters on each lane creature you control. This one is not super strong. Again, we talked about how like earthbending, its true peak optimization is just like not even attacking, not caring about them being creatures. You just like put them on Earthbend sack lands and then use that for shenanigans. And Boomy's main thing, he Earthbend 1 for on an ETB, which is fine. 5 mana is quite a lot for that, though. The main usefulness is whenever he attacks, you grow all your land creature tokens. And that is the exciting part, for me at least. I like the idea of Earthbending and then killing people's with lands. And he's a kind of okay way of kind of facilitating that. He's not the best. It's an attack trigger on a 5-drop, and you need haste to get that attack trigger the moment he enters. So that's not ideal. You need to find some ways of giving him haste. And then the payoff is like, it's good, but it's not like insane or anything, just 2 counters on everything that are lane creature tokens. So it's not like super busted or anything, even when you do have haste. But you know what? If I'm playing an Earthbendy deck and I'm punching people in the face with lands, definitely going to be running him. You know, he's definitely in the 99. So Boomy, I don't know. I'll put you great in the 99 for the Earthbendy punchy decks. So next Boomy is Boomy, King of 3 Trials, 6 mana green, legendary creature, human noble ally. It's a 4/4. When it enters, choose up to X, where X is the number of lesson cards in your graveyard. So if you have 0 lessons, doesn't do anything, I guess. And then if you have 3 lessons, you get all 3 modes. So the first mode, put 3+1/+1 counters on Boomy. Mode 2, target player scries 3. And mode 3, Earthbend 3. So even if you have 3 lessons in your graveyard, paying 6 mana to Earthbend 3, scry 3, and make Boomy a 7/7 isn't great. I don't think that's usually worth it. So the best case scenario is not very great. And then you also have to be running lessons. So very easy to do if you're like Avatar only, or you're like a lesson deck or whatever. But outside of that, kind of hard. And then the payoff, I don't think it's worth it. So Boomy Cabbage Tier, I'm sorry. This Boomy, however, is good in Commander. Boomy Unleashed is a 5 mana Gruul legendary creature, human noble ally. It's a 5/4 with trample. When it enters, Earthbend 4. And whenever Boomy deals combat damage to a player, untap all lands you control. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. Only land creatures can attack during that combat phase. So 5 mana. It's a 5/4 trampler, so he can probably get in combat damage by himself. He enters, the Earthbends 4, not just 1, but 4. That's better. If you're trying to punch people in the face with lands, that's good. And then, he needs to attack and deal combat damage. So there are hoops to get his combat damage trigger. You need to give him haste. Maybe you need to pump him up further. Maybe you need to give him evasion, whatever. But then the payoff is you get not only an additional combat phase, but you get to untap all your lands. And then, only those lands can attack. But just like, forget about the additional combat phase. You can ignore that part. Just like dealing combat damage, untap all lands you control, then just redeploy a bunch of different things is already quite good. That's already quite good. The fact that he gives an extra combat for your lands is like even better. And obviously, he's going to be most powerful in like an Earthbendy, punch you in the face with lands style deck. But even if you're not doing that, just Earthbending 4 on ETB, untapping all lands whenever he's punching people in the face, and he's a 5/4 trampler. That's already good. Like, you don't have to be attacking with your land creatures if you don't want to. You can just be using them to cast spells because you untapped all your lands. So he's already very good, even if you're not fully utilizing all his abilities. That said, do you want him in the command zone? Do you want him in the 99? I could see him being great in the command zone of like a landfall punchy in the face type deck. I think he's actually better suited than that, because then you can make sure he has haste, he has evasion, he has protection and stuff, and the payoff is just so good if you get to hit with him every single turn. Also, like double strike. If you give him double strike and you can like float the mana and stuff, whew, that's good. But even in the 99 of like an Earthbendy style deck, I think he's great there too. I think the only strike against Boomy in the command zone is that we have another Gruul Earthbend commander that is arguably even stronger. So that makes it a little bit awkward for Boomy. I still think he's great in the command zone, and he's also great in the 99. I just think there is going to be another commander we're going to look at shortly. Not shortly. It is going to get very long. But we're going to see eventually that's also Gruul, also Earthbendy, and just stronger than Boomy, sorry. Next, we've got Chong and Lily, Nomads, 4-mana red legendary creature bard human ally. It's a 3/3. Whenever one or more bards you control attack, choose one. Put a lore counter on each of any number of target sagas you control, or creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn for each lore counter among sagas you control. So this is a bard specific type card, which I don't know if we've seen before. Caring specifically about bards, that's neat. And it's tying bards to sagas. It doesn't really do anything if you don't have any sagas on the battlefield. But if you have a bunch of sagas on the battlefield and bards and you're attacking with them, it's quite good. I guess like if you're in a saga deck, then you might want to run this in your saga deck. There's obviously not that many other bards you want to be running. There's probably like a handful that happen to synergize with sagas already. So yeah, you could like just toss this in, but sagas aren't really known for attacking. Maybe like saga creature decks. I don't know. I guess, yeah, if you're in a saga deck, you put this in the 99. You're not putting this in command zone because you're mono red, not enough options. But in the 99 of a saga deck, sure, I guess. All right, Chong, great in the 99. Next, we've got Combustion Man. It's a 5-mana red, a legendary creature human assassin. It's a 4/6. Whenever it attacks, destroy target permanent unless the controller has Combustion Man deal damage to them equal to its power. So this is kind of a funny card. It allows red to potentially blow up any permanent, which is usually outside of red's abilities. However, it is within red's abilities because typically when red does something outside of its abilities, it gives the controller, an opponent, the ability to say no by just taking damage. And this fits that perfectly, where it's an attack trigger. Your opponent can say, I want to keep this permanent, actually. I'll take 4. But the cool thing is that if you pump Combustion Man's power, the damage gets greater and greater. And then it's very unlikely that everyone's going to say no if he's like 10 power or something like that. So it's very funny. I think this card is actually playable in specific red decks. Like, obviously, you need a deck that can give him haste and can pump his ability. And then he's kind of a cool removal ability every single turn that can blow up things that red generally doesn't blow up, like enchantments, for example. It can take out specific lands. It can take out basics. Ooh. Yeah, I think this card is cool. It's not like super strong or anything, but like if you were like in a go-go deck or something like that, that would be ideal. Then you get 2 Combustion Mans, and yeah, your opponents can say take 6 or lose 2 permanents, or take 12 or lose 2 permanents, something like that. That's funny. I think this card is funny. Combustion Man, I think is probably great in the 9/9 of like very specific decks. It's probably more of a maybe. Also, as like a Voltron commander, it's kind of funny too, because then you can make sure he has haste and everything. You make sure he has protection, evasion, whatever he needs. Pump up his power, obviously, too. Next, we got Fang, Roku's Companion. It's a 5-mana red legendary creature dragon. It's a 4/4 flyer. Whenever it attacks, another target legendary creature you control gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is Fang's power. And then when it dies, if he wasn't a spirit, return this card to the battlefield under your control. He is a spirit in addition to his other types. So this is a pump effect for other legendary creatures you control, which in 2025, Magic means basically any other creature you control. And baseline, it's pumping it for 4. And also it's attacking as a 4/4 flyer for 5. And it also has a little bit protection from removal, because if it dies the first time, it comes back as a spirit, which is quite nice. What decks would want this, though? I imagine this is not a commander. It could be a commander. It could be a commander. And then you like focus on legendary creatures that have their power, like they scale up in effect based on their power. Like this could be double strike effects or things that like deal damage equal to their power, like Combustion Man. So there is like build around potential in here. Is it strong enough to build around? I don't know. But it is a cool card. And I like that it has like built-in resiliency from removal as well. So yeah, I think Fang is interesting. Definitely you need to find cards that, scale up with power, like Combustion Man. And then it will be interesting. Yeah, whatever. We'll put it greater than a 99. It's like a maybe for me, but I don't know. I think the effect is cool. All right, Azula fans, your savior is here. This is the strongest Azula, possibly one of the strongest commanders from the entire set. I would say like easily top 5, probably top 3. Grixis just keeps getting away with it somehow. Fire Lord Azula, 4 mana, Grixis, legendary creature, human noble. It's a 4/4. It's firebending 2. And whenever you cast a spell while Fire Lord Azula is attacking, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. So this is basically Grixis Storm, right? You attack with Azula, you cast a bunch of spells, you copy all those spells, and then your opponents just die. That's basically how Fire Lord Azula works. So like the baseline shenanigans of Fire Lord Azula is like you cast big score. Instead of just being like, okay, big score, I'm going to discard 1 card, draw 2, make 2 treasures. Now Azula's like, hey, by the way, I'm drawing 4 cards and I'm making 4 treasures. Frantic Search. You're not mana neutral and looting 2 cards now. Now you're actually looting 4 cards and you're actually up 3 mana to cast other spells. And you keep going and keep going and going. All your instant speed removal spells now kill 2 things. Your pump abilities on Azula pump twice. She's also ramp free too because she has firebending 2, and you can use that mana to cast your instants, which you're going to then copy with her. It's nuts. It's a silly card. Basically, she attacks a single time. Your opponents are in a world of hurt. And you're going to be up so much mana, so much card advantage. Either they die immediately because you stormed off successfully, or you've put yourself in such a high position by casting removal spells and drawing a bunch of cards, making a bunch of mana, that you're very well set up to win on a future turn. This is definitely, top 5 strongest commanders. Definitely a build around though. Like you need to have a lot of instants in your deck, and you want to make sure that they kind of work with what Azula is doing with the copy effects. So Fire Lord Azula, power wise, out of all of these, I think she's the strongest. She's probably stronger than Azula the Super, just because she comes out faster. As she comes out faster, she can win the game before Azula grinds everybody down. But I do think both Azula cards are probably in my top 2 strongest, objectively, like looking at all these things. Probably go like Fire Lord Azula, then Azula Cunning Usurper, then like Avatar Aang at the Crossroads, something like that so far. There's other powerful commanders, don't you worry. But like, yeah, Fire Lord Azula, very, very, very strong. I wouldn't put her in Tomer favorites just because like I think she's a little bit too easy. Like, she's doing a lot of things that I like doing, like copying big scores and stuff. I like doing that, but like I like working for it a little bit more. And Fire Lord Azula just doesn't require much work at all. It's a little bit too easy. And I know that irony of Avatar Aang being whenever you do XYZ, you draw a card. But even that is tame compared to Fire Lord Azula just doing anything, attacking a single time. Just trust me on it, bro. It's scary. Next, we've got Fire Lord Ozai, the first of the Ozais. It's a 4 mana black legendary creature human noble, and it's a 4/4. And I think it is its color identity. Its color identity is Rakdos because it has a red pip in its card text and not its reminder text. Whenever it attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, you add an amount of red equal to the sacrificed creature's power until end of combat. You don't lose this mana as steps end, and you pay 6 mana, exile the top card of each opponent's library. Until end of turn, you may play one of those cards without paying its mana cost. So it's an interesting sack outlet for like a Rakdos sacrifice style deck. The higher the power that you're sacrificing, the more red mana you're making. And if you don't have anything better to do with that red mana, you could just dump it into his activated ability where you get to cast a spell from one of your opponents for free. It's only the top card of each opponent. And yeah, that's at least like 3 hits in a 4-player free-for-all game. But you might just whiff, and then you feel really bad for paying 6 mana. You do get to cast a spell for free, though, so that's kind of nice. And if you have, like, infinite mana, you just win the game. Like, this is like an infinite mana outlet, where if you make infinite mana any which way, like a Basalt Monolith combo, I don't know, in Rakdos colors, some way in Rakdos infinite mana, you could just have Fire Lord Ozai activate his ability infinite times and exile your opponent's decks. And that's kind of funny, so that's kind of powerful. But just like as a triggered ability, It's strong. It's kind of cool. Yeah, I don't know how you would build around it. It's a lot of hoops to jump through, but it is a really cool design. Rakdos sacrifice, and you specifically have to spend that mana of the creature you're sacrificing in combat, and you want to have high power creatures that are sacrificing. A lot of hoops to jump through. I don't know if it's very strong or not, but it is a very interesting design to me. All right, Firelord Ozai. Great in the command zone, definitely a build around. All right, Firelord Zuko. This is a Mardu, 3 mana, legendary creature, human noble ally. It's a 2/4 firebending X, where X is Firelord Zuko's power, so starts off at 2. And then whenever you cast a spell from exile, or whenever a permanent you control enters from exile, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So Zuko's a really interesting design. He is mana, but only in the combat phase because of firebending, but it can make a lot of mana. Just like keep pumping up Zuko, and the more you pump up Zuko, the more firebending he's doing, which is great. And he also grows himself and the entire team as long as you're casting stuff from exile and returning permanents from exile, basically. So red has a lot of card draw, or card advantage rather, that is tied to casting stuff from exile, like impulse draw. So there's like a whole amount of stuff you can do to trigger Zuko's ability in red. And then in white is the primary color of blinking and airbending and stuff like that. So that can offer another avenue of triggering his ability. And also white is probably like the best of the 3 colors for going wide. They can make 1/1s really, really easily. And then black, I don't know what black really offers to casting from exile or going wide necessarily, but I mean, having an extra color is always great too, I suppose. I also I think like it's a really interesting design where it's like you're doing an Exile Matters style theme, a go wide style theme, and hopefully using the firebending mana in an interesting way too. So there's a lot of things to juggle, a lot of things you could potentially build around, and you have access to 3 colors. So there's a lot of wiggle room on how you do end up building Firelord Zuko. That said, my favorite thing about this card is it just made me happy as like a person who watched Avatar, because I really, really like the design here. This is Firelord Zuko at the end of the show where he became an ally to the Avatar, to the Aang Gang. And this is the only Zuko that has the ally tag to it, so that's very fitting. It's also the only Zuko that has white because he's aligned with Avatar, who's white-based, and also he's, about helping his team, which is also like, his main cause and everything. And then also, I love the fact that it's very exile-based, because he was the exiled prince. And then he returns, and when he returns, he's stronger, wiser, yada yada. So I just feel like all those combinations together, I feel like is a very, very strong flavor win. And out of like all the Avatar cards that I looked at, this one was my favorite from a flavor standpoint. I felt like this one just, for me personally, it resonated for me in terms of like such a flavor win, but also attached to a very interesting card design. Usually when I'm looking at like any Magic set, flavor is important to me, but it's secondary to just interesting card designs. And so when I look at like a UB set where it's an IP that I don't care for, which is like 99% of UBs, honestly, I can disassociate from the flavor to an extent, as long as the mechanics are interesting to me. So for example, Assassin's Creed, there was a lot of interesting designs that I liked, even though I don't really care about Assassin's Creed. Even Spider-Man, I didn't like I definitely didn't like hot dog stands and stuff like that flavor-wise, which was kind of a bummer for me, but I still found a lot of interesting designs there. Less than other sets, which made me like the set just overall less, but that's usually what I'm usually looking for primarily. And here I found a card that I really, really like, but then also the flavor I really appreciate. So Firelord Zuko. Yeah, I'm definitely putting him in October favorites. Maybe not because I necessarily want to build around him too badly. I do think he's a very interesting design. But just out of flavor, I feel like he is my favorite flavor card from the entire set. Next, we've got Flopsy, Boomy's Buddy. It's a 6-mana green legendary creature, Ape Goat. It's a 4/4. When it enters, put a counter on each creature control, +1/+1 counter, and each creature you control with 4 or more power can't be blocked by more than one creature. So 6 mana, ETB, grows itself and every other creature and makes it harder for your creatures to be blocked. That's fine in limited, I guess, but I can't see myself ever playing this in Commander. There's just easier ways of getting counters on all your stuff. There's easier ways to give evasion for all your stuff. Yeah. It's a funny card. I like the design, but I'm going to put it right beside the weakest Boomy in the Cabbages tier. Next, we've got Gran Gran. Gran Gran is 1 blue mana, legendary creature, human peasant ally. Whenever Gran Gran becomes tapped, draw a card, then discard a card. Non-creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast as long as there are 3 or more lesson cards in your graveyard. It's a 1/2. Gran Gran is strong, you guys. Gran Gran is really strong. Just like 1 mana, 1/2, being tapped, you loot can be powerful. Obviously, it's not as good as like a straight up looter. Looters are usually like 2 mana and they can tap themselves. But in the right deck, Gran Gran slaps, okay? Like, first of all, ignore the second part. The second part's very, very strong, but ignore the second part for a second. If you're like water bending, if you're tapping Gran Gran consistently every single turn in a deck that, you know, just does that, like taps your creatures for convoking and for water bending and all that stuff, and, you know, springleaf drumming, whatever, then Gran Gran is like a super hyper cheap efficient looter, right? Like looters are usually 2 mana. This one is immediately 1 mana and can start doing it immediately if you can just tap her without, you know, like needing to activate her herself or whatever. Then on top of that, if you are in a lesson deck, she becomes absurd. Non-creature spells cost 1 less a cast on a 1-drop. Are you kidding me? So if you're in a lesson deck, Gran Gran just for the second ability is amazing. The first ability is amazing too in the right deck too. And then you put them both in the same thing together. If you're like a lesson deck that obviously wants to be milling a bunch of lessons in the graveyard, and you have a lot of ways of tapping Gran Gran, oh my god, there's so much value in a 1-drop. It's insane. It's insane. I kind of want to make a Gran Gran commander. I know it's not going to be good, but like, can you imagine we can have like Gran Gran, Aunt May, and then we need 2 more elderly folk. Then we need 2 more elderly folk, and we could just have like old people commander clash. Oh my god. I wait for the day. We're so close. Maybe it's a sleep deprivation, but Gran Gran's going to the top in the summer favorites. I don't think she's good as a commander, don't get me wrong. And she's very specific in what type of decks you want to put her in the 99, which is where she usually should be for maximum power optimization or whatever. But, come on. Gran Gran as your commander? Oh, man, I'm doing it. It's amazing. Next, we got Guru Pathik. It's a 4-mana Simic hybrid, so green, blue to cast it. Green or blue to cast it. A legendary creature, human monk ally. It's a 2/4. When it enters, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a lesson, saga, or shrine card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest at the bottom of your library in a random order. And then whenever you're casting lesson, saga, or shrines, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. If you are a dedicated saga, shrine, lesson deck, I don't know how many you need to hit. If you have like a 90% hit rate on its ETB ability, which I think is like, I don't know. I actually don't know how much you would need to be. I think it would be like 30 of these, 30 hits or something like that to get like a 90% hit rate. If you have like at least 80%, let's say that, maybe that's more reasonable. If you have like at least 80% in like a lesson, saga, shrine deck, which if you are a lesson, saga, or shrine deck, you probably meet that easily, then he becomes very good. He's a 4 mana, replaces himself, and then as he's sitting around, the longer he sits around, the more counters he hands out to people. That's totally fine to me. That's a good playmaker in a lesson, saga, or shrine deck. Do you want them in as a commander? Probably not. I don't think he's exciting enough as a commander. He doesn't do enough for your lesson, saga, shrines. But in the 99, he's just great. Like, you just play him on turn 4 or whatever. You don't really care if he dies. He replaces himself. And if he sticks around, he grows your team. That's good. The Guru. Oh my god, there's so many left. I need to really pick up the pace. I'm so sorry, everyone. We'll put Guru greater than 99 and we'll speed things up a bit. Hakoda, Selfless Commander. He's a 4-mana white legendary creature, human warrior ally. He's a 3/5 with vigilance. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast ally spells from the top of your library, and you can sacrifice him. Creatures you control get +0/+5 and gain indestructible until end of turn. So Hakoda is for a legendary deck, obviously. And he's very, very good in a legendary deck. He's card advantage because you can sometimes be casting allies off the top of your library. Again, you need to have a critical mass of allies, but again, you're an ally deck, so you should be fine. And then he also just saves your entire team one time. You can sack him and make everything indestructible, save them from a board wipe. Also grow their toughness too, which I guess is quite nice. I'm not quite sure why he has a sacrifice ability because I don't think he dies in the show. He definitely is selfless, and he's a selfless commander. So I guess maybe that's just good enough. But I don't think he dies in the show. And he does hang back, right? When they fail to beat the Fire Nation on the Eclipse. So and they're showing like Appa flying away. So yeah, you know what? I've understood the design behind it now. Okay, cool. But yeah. Anyway, so he's not. I don't think he's a commander, but he's great in the 99 of any ally deck, right? Like, who doesn't want card advantage and a board save effect on an ally deck, which is usually go wide? Perfect. No notes. Personally, I am going to be trying him out in my Changeling deck because my Changeling deck is desperate for more card draw, and he offers that card advantage, and he also saves the team too, which is quite nice. So Hakoda, great in the 99 of any ally deck. Outside of allies, you probably want to avoid it. Easy peasy. We got there fast. Yeah. Next, we've got Hama the Bloodbender. This is a 5-mana Dimir hybrid, so blue or black can be cast to caster. It's a 3/3 a legendary creature, human warlock, and when it enters, target opponent mills 3 cards. Exile up to 1 non-creature, non-land card from that player's graveyard. For as long as you control Hama, you may cast the exiled card during a turn by waterbending X rather than paying its mana cost, where X is mana value. This card is very cool. 5-mana ETBs, a little bit of milling, a little bit of graveyard hate. It steals some non-creature non-land card, and then you can cast it by waterbending, which is nice. So you have a bunch of creatures laying around. Hama herself taps for 1 at the very least, and you get to steal a spell from opponent's graveyard, which is cool. And it's on a 5-drop, so you could potentially blink this and have more theft, more mill, more fun times. I think this card is very, very cool. Very fitting on Bloodbending as well. And yeah, neat card. Hama, I think, is great in the 99 of, I would say, like, go widey decks. You know, like if you have a bunch of creatures and you're in Dimir, or you have like a bunch of like artifact tokens and you're in Dimir, you can just kind of throw her in and she's going to be pretty cool. All right, next we've got Haru, Hidden Talent. 2-mana green, a legendary creature, human peasant ally. It's a 1/1, and whenever another ally you control enters Earthbend 1. Believe it or not, friends, but this random uncommon is actually one of the strongest cards in the entire set. I'm not sure if everybody has picked up on this, but I have mentioned this many times in this video. The true strength of Earthbending is not to hit your opponents in the face, even though that is how I prefer doing it. The best thing to do with Earthbending is actually just targeting fetch lands. You target a fetch land, you crack the fetch land, instead of going to the graveyard, goes back to the battlefield, and then you get to crack the fetch again. Or you get to Earthbend it again and keep doing it over and over and over again, and ramp like crazy. And Haru is one of the most efficient Earthbending cards in the game. He's just 2 mana. He doesn't require spending any additional mana. You just, in an ally deck, you just play more allies. You just do your thing. And then whenever you're doing that, you get to Earthbend for 1. And again, 1, 5, 8, it doesn't matter. If your main goal is just to, you know, use that animated land that as a fetch land, and you crack it and you get it back later on, Earthbend 1, 8, it doesn't matter. So this is one of the most efficient earthbending cards in the entire game. It's 2 mana. It doesn't require any additional mana sink. It's perfect in any ally deck. Any ally deck. And yeah, if you could potentially have this as a commander and make it work, I guess. I don't know how many allies are in mono green, but he makes a lot more sense in the 99 of like an ally deck, or in my case, a changing deck. I think this card is so strong that I took out all fetch lands from my changeling deck because I hate shuffling. And that led to inconsistently, because the 5-color deck, my mana base was awful, but I just hated shuffling. So I was like, no, I don't care about an awful mana base. I don't want to deal with shuffling. Haru is so strong that I actually put all 10 fetch lands back in my changeling deck just so I can run him and be obscene with it, because I can earthbend my fetch lands. That's how strong he is. He is crying crazy. He also combos very easily too. Like there's an ETB, I think it's like, not retreat. Is it Retreat to Emeria? It's one of the retreats. It's basically whenever land enters, you get to make an ally. And then there are a bunch of fetch lands from Capenna that like they enter the battlefield tapped and they immediately sacrifice themselves to fetch a land. So if you have Haru, one of the Capenna lands, and the Emeria thing that makes an ally whenever you landfall, you can earthbend the Capenna land before it sacrifices itself. Then you sacrifice the Capenna land to itself and get back another land. Then the Capenna land comes back. Then you just stack the triggers again properly, where the ally is made. Haru turns that Capenna land back into earthbended land, and then you sacrifice it again, and you do it as many times as you want for as many allies as you can muster, I guess, and as many basic lands as you can fetch with the Capenna land. It's not infinite, but it's finite, equal to the number of lands you can fetch with your Capenna land, which is still going to be a lot. So yeah, card's insane is what I'm trying to say. Haru, yeah, you're going to be very high up in the Tomer favorites because you're going in changelings. You made me put fetch lands back in my deck, you monster. Next we have competition for the Shrine Commander slot. Hebei, Forest Guardian, 4 mana, green, legendary creature, bear spirit. When it enters, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a shrine card. You may put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Then you can play Wooburg, tap it. For each legendary enchantment you control, create a 1/1 color spirit creature token with this token can't block or be blocked by non-spirit tokens or creatures. This card's very good. This card's very good. ETB immediately gets you a shrine and puts it on the battlefield. So card advantage and mana advantage. If Hebei dies, who cares? You already got value. You already got a shrine onto the battlefield. And then if he lives, he's just hanging out. You eventually get Wooburg. You have a bunch of legendary enchantments. You make a bunch of 1/1s. They're your win condition. You don't have to worry about it anymore. And then also he's great for like blinking, cheat death effects, whatever, to reuse that onto the battlefield ability over and over again. Is he better than Go Shintai? I don't remember because I don't remember what Go Shintai says. 1 second. Go Shintai of Life's Origin. Is he better than Go Shintai of Life's Origin? His activated ability is not as strong because this one just returns an enchantment from the graveyard. But I think his ETB is much better than Go Shintai's ETB with itself and shrines. Like that, okay, it makes a bunch of 1/1s. Oh, actually, they're shrine enchantment. I feel like, okay, revision here. If you're in a low interaction environment where Go Shintai doesn't die very often, Go Shintai is very good. Like if you see a board wipe maybe like once per game, Go Shintai is the superior commander. However, if you see like 5 board wipes in a single game regularly, if Go Shintai dies very quickly, Hebei is better because Hebei's ETB is just stronger. If you just need an immediate value, Hebei is much stronger. Go Shintai is much better if it gets to stick around. So low interaction environments, Go Shintai is much stronger. High interaction environments, Hebei is stronger. That is my take right now, and I am objectively correct. Thank you. Also, objective take over here. This is the better commander in the command zone because he's a panda, and pandas are cute. I rest my case. Next, we have the uncommon version of Spirit Panda. It's the Spirit of Balance, 4 mana, Orzhov hybrid. Orzhov hybrid, white, black, can be spent. I don't know. My brain's dying. I'm so sorry. These videos are very long. Legendary creature, Bear Spirit. It's a 3/3. Whenever Hebe enters or attacks, you may sacrifice another creature or artifact. If you do, put 2 counters on it. When it leaves the battlefield, put its counters on target creature you control. I feel like, I don't know. It's not strong in its own right, but I feel like you could do like something weird with this with counters. Maybe a combo it facilitates. I don't think it does, but like it could do something interesting. I don't know. This is a maybe pile for me. I don't think this card is strong, but I might be overlooking some really cool interaction in Orzhov colors that you can do with this. I don't know. Maybe this is a maybe. I don't know. Is there anything cool to do with this panda? I don't know. Iroh, Dragon of the West. 4 mana, red, a legendary creature, human noble ally. It's a 4/4 of haste and has Mentor. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, each creature you control with a counter on it gains Firebending 2 until end of turn. So, this doesn't have Firebending by itself, but it has haste and it has Mentor. So it means you can play it, and if you have another creature that you're attacking with, that it can mentor up with, you could immediately get Firebending, which cool. No, wait, no. I think it's the next turn, right? Because you get Mentor trigger, and then it's already attacking, so it doesn't trigger. Well, trigger. Whatever, I got that wrong. But okay, let's rewind for a second. If you're in like a counters deck, probably a +1/+1 counters deck, Iroh can be played, and if you have creatures with counters on them already, he can attack, and or he doesn't even need to attack, I guess. The creatures with counters on them, the turn you cast Iroh, the creatures with counter on them already get Firebending 2, and then he can also mentor and help add counters onto things. That's really nice. If first you have creatures with counters on them, and if you could do anything with Firebending 2, which is a very narrow application. But again, if you have a bunch of instant spells, if you have clues laying around that you want to crack or whatever, you can sink that mana in during combat. Very, very good. But it's definitely it's a narrow application, definitely a build around. Would I put him in the command zone or the 99? Definitely the 99, because I don't know how many ways mono red supports counters matters. And I don't think it's like casting Iroh and slowly mentoring your creatures is the way to go to really utilize his ability. You definitely want to be in a counters deck. So you definitely want to be like Gruul, maybe? I don't know. And then have ways of utilizing Firebending. So a lot of ifs, but it is an interesting card, and it is very powerful. Giving Firebending to all your creatures potentially is very strong, but you need to get counters on them first. So Iroh, very strong if you can utilize a lot of Firebending. And you can have a lot of creatures with counters them already without mentoring them up with Iroh. The next Iroh is Iroh Firebending Instructor. He's a 3 mana red, legendary creature, human noble ally. He's a 2/2. Whenever it attacks, attacking creatures get +1/+1 until end of turn. He's a Firebending Instructor, but he doesn't know how to Firebend. Very weird. F. Cabbages. And now we get to the strongest Iroh. Iroh Grand Lotus. It's a 6 mana Timur, legendary creature, human noble ally. It's a 5/5 of Firebending 2. During your turn, each non-lesson instant and sorcery card in your graveyard has flashback. Flashback cost is equal to its mana cost. And then during your turn, each lesson card in your graveyard has flashback 1. Woo boy, this is strong. So just like ignore the lesson part. 6 mana for a 5/5 Firebending 2 that gives all your spells, all your instant sorceries flashback is already kind of playable, honestly. Like, yeah, I would actually run that just because I'm Temur, so ramping him out a 6-drop is not like insane. You have 3 colors to work with, 3 colors worth of instant sorceries. You could definitely build like a storm deck off that, just having a Past in Flames in your command zone. But then the fact that like if you're playing lessons, they just cost 1 mana. Oh my god, this card is strong. Let's look at just some of the lessons that Iroh could potentially cast for just 1 mana. How about Overwhelming Victory? Deal 5 damage to a creature, pump up your team for excess damage. Yes, please. Whirlwind Technique, usually 6 mana. Iroh's casting it for a 5 mana discount. Airbend up to 2 target creatures. Draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards. Very nice. I like it. Let's Rampant Growth for 1 mana instead of 2. Why not? Disenchant for 1 mana instead of 2. Why not? Elemental Teachings 5-mana spell you're casting for 1 mana to ramp 2 lands onto the battlefield, 2 into your graveyard. Harrow for 1 mana. Yeah. These are all the new ones. Are there any old ones that are very good? Secret of Bloodbending. Does 4 pips, which are generally difficult to do, but Iroh can do it for 1 generic, which is very nice. Waterbend tends to look expensive, but whatever. Yeah, so there's a lot of nice cards that we can cast for steep discounts, and you just pick the best ones out of them. I don't know if there's any of the older, the Strixhaven cards are any good. I can't think of any off the top of my head. Maybe just all the new ones. I guess Introduction to Annihilation is kind of decent. 1 mana, exile target non-land permanent, and its opponents draw a card. I mean, that's very good removal. Yeah, so it's mostly the new stuff, but like the new stuff, there's a lot of cards that are good here. So yeah, Iroh he's very strong. He's very strong. Like you ignore the lesson part. You have Pass in Flames in the command zone. That's already strong. You're going to storm up. You're going to win the game, usually, if you get the untap of Iroh. Then on top of that, if you're trying to stick with like a very Avatar-themed deck, Iroh is another great option if you don't want to go for Avatar Aang. There's a lot of lessons. Most of the best lessons are in the Avatar set, so you're not missing too many. And even if they're mediocre spells, casting them for 1 mana makes them very good. Yeah. Next, we've got Iroh Tea Master. It's a 3-mana Boros legendary creature, human citizen ally. When it enters, create a food token. It's a 2/2, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may have target opponent gain control of target permanent you control. When you do, create a 1/1 white ally creature token, put a +1/+1 counter on that token for each permanent you own that your opponents control. So this is, I'll be honest, this is this card for the 99 of Zedruu decks. Maybe I'm being mean, but that's how I see it. I'm like, oh, yes, I am putting them directly in my Zedruu deck, and I will give away more stuff with him, which is great. And then I get really big ally tokens to block because people usually go for my face if I give them things they don't like. But he can be your commander too. Like, first of all, I feel like Zedruu brings dread to a lot of people, and Iroh, there's no way you're going to be like, oh no, Iroh is going to be evil. No, you look at him, he's adorable. Everybody loves Iroh. So maybe calculated wise, like if you're going for politics, instead of Zedruu, you just go Iroh as your commander, and you build the same deck. You just drop blue. I feel like that has potential. Yeah. Adorable, love Iroh, best character in Avatar. Him and Appa, I think, are the 2 best. Yeah, good card. Kind of interesting in like a donate strategy. You build a donate deck around him. Either you put him Zedruu or you make him his own thing. I think both are very valid. Iroh, wouldn't you know it? Tomer favorite. Next is, I apologize if I get the name wrong, Zhong, the Deserter. I forget how they said it in the show. 3-mana red, 2/3 legendary creature, human rebel ally. It's a firebending 1. It has Exhaust. Exhaust is back. 3 mana. Put a +1/+1 counter on it. When you next cast a lesson spell this turn, copy it, and you may choose new targets for the copies. So it's a 3-mana 2/3. It firebends 1. But the cool thing about it is that even if you don't have an outlet for firebending, you can spend 1 of that mana to pay for its exhaust cost and then copy the next lesson spell you cast. You have to be in a lesson deck. You have to be a dedicated lesson deck. I would say like at least like 15 lessons in the deck for you to consider putting him in. He copies 1 thing. He becomes a 3/4. He continues firebending for you. I think this is fine. It's not like great even in like a lesson deck. You have to be in a lesson deck though. But like if you are in a lesson deck and you want to be flavorful, by all means, I think copying a spell is nice. All right, so Zhong is great in the 99 of lesson decks. Next, we've got Jet Freedom Fighter. It's a 5-mana Boros hybrid card. Legendary creature, human rebel ally. It's a 3/1. When it enters, he deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature an opponent controls. And when it dies, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. That's a pretty good ETB. If you're in a go wide Boros deck, paying 5 mana, ETB blows something up when you have a bunch of creatures on the battlefield is nice. He's a 3/1. He has no evasion. He has no first strike, no nothing. So he's probably going to die to Stiff Breeze. And then when he does, he grows your team a little bit. that's nice. It's not like super good or anything. It's not busted by any means, but it's a good playmaker if you're in a Boros go wide deck. Ideally, if you also care about +1/+1 counters, then he's quite nice. Especially like if you also have like sack outlets for these type of things, he is quite nice. Like I built like the Boros Sephiroth deck for an upcoming video. I'm doing 40 decks under $40. I think he's going to fit very, very well in there because it's kind of go widey, and so his ETB is relevant. And then if I get a counter on him, I sacrifice him to Sephiroth later on, and then he puts counters on other things. That's kind of what I want to be doing. So yeah, I really like the design. It's not super strong or anything, but it is cool. So Jet, Freedom Fighter, yeah, I'll say great in the 99, sure. Not great, but like, I like him. Next, we've got the rare Jet. It's Jet Rebel Leader. It's a 4-mana white legendary creature, human rebel ally. It's a 3/4 whenever it attacks. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a creature card with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So, attack trigger is card advantage. With a little bit of card selection if you have more than one creature that you can choose from. You got to have like a critical mass of smaller creatures though for him to hit consistently. Like I would want like a 90% hit rate before I consider running him. But when you have like a 90% hit rate, like 4 mana, 3/4 each turn, you get to card advantage and mana advantage because it goes directly to the battlefield tapped and attacking. Like this is a poor man's Winota, but like Winota's already busted. Yeah, but it just depends on how much do you need for 90% hit rate? You know what? Let me check. Okay, so apparently you need like 37 hits in your deck to have like a 91% hit rate. So you need like 36 creatures that he can hit to have a 90% hit rate. I think that's what it means. I don't know. I'm not very mathy. I just looked up the hypergeometric calculator. Let me know in the comment section if I'm wrong. But that's what I believe is correct, I think. 90% hit rate, I think. To hit one or more, rather. So yeah, maybe that's a bit too much. Okay, so this is a little bit more reasonable. If you have 27 creatures, mana value 3 or less in your deck, then it looks like you have an 80% chance to hit with Jet. Is that enough for you to hit 80% of the time, miss 20% of the time? That's probably enough. I don't know, but I would get very annoyed if I missed. I don't know. So yeah, I don't think he's worth it. Like he's 4 mana, you have to give him haste, and then you still have like, even if you have like 27 creatures in your deck that can hit with him, you can still whiff like 20% of the time. That's probably enough. That's probably good enough. I don't know, but like, I don't know. I'd feel very bad if I paid 4 mana, I gave this guy haste, and then I missed. I would feel big sad. So Jet's like a maybe. Like maybe if you built around him and your deck, which is like all cheap creatures, and then you had ways of giving him extra combats because they removed the hybrid restriction to the color identity, and now you can run the Boros hybrid extra combat spell with Retrace, then maybe keep an eye on this card. I mean, they're going to be replacing the changing the hybrid rules because Mark Rosewater really wants them to soon. So check back early next year when they do it. And then maybe Jet gets a little bit better if you run the extra combat spells in mono white. Nah. Next, we've got June, Bounty Hunter. It's a 2-mana black legendary creature human mercenary. It's a 2/2, can't be blocked as long as you've drawn 2 or more cards this turn. Pay 1 mana, sacrifice another creature, create a clue token, activate only during your turn. So it's a sack outlet that could turn into card draw. You have to pay 3 mana total to draw a card off sacrificing creatures. It's not very efficient, but like, at least in this set, you're using clues to water bend and stuff. And you can fire bend to pay the cost as well. And then it can't be blocked, so it can chip in with evasion if you've drawn 2 or more cards, like you crack that clue. It's interesting. I don't think it's good enough in Commander because like we just have more efficient ways of drawing cards and we have more efficient ways of sacrificing creatures. But it is kind of neat. The only thing that bothers me about June, it bothers me about June. June's fine. I like the character. But I remember when she was introduced in the show and then Iroh was being like really creepy on her and like taking advantage of her while she was paralyzed. Did not like that. I really like Iroh as a character, but that was a little bit gross. Made me like Iroh a little bit less. But yeah, that's something I just remembered about the show. I don't think this version of June's very good in Commander. I think it's probably Cabbage's level, but you know what? We'll just put it in the maybe section. And then Iroh for reminding me that you were kind of a creep to a teenage girl. We'll put you back down at least one slot in your ranking. Next, we've got Katara, Bending Prodigy, 3 mana blue, legendary creature, human warrior ally. It's a 2/3. At the beginning of your end step, if Katara is tapped, you put a counter on her, and you can Waterbend 6, draw a card. Waterbend 6 is kind of interesting to draw a card, but like, if you have enough stuff that you can easily tap to draw a card off her, I feel like there's just way better things you could be doing. Like, let's say like your Clue deck or something, and you have a bunch of artifact tokens that you can just waterbend 6 willy-nilly with her. Then you have like Shimmer Dragon or something that does just like, it's essentially like waterbend 2. So yeah. I think her ability is interesting, but probably not very strong. And then, her growing every single turn, ideally, is okay too, but again, not super relevant outside of like 1v1 limited. So yeah, not a very strong card, but an interesting card. Also, I'm not really a fan of the waifu art. It does not feel like Katara to me when I'm looking at this character. Next, we have Katara, Heroic Healer, 5 mana white, 2/3, legendary creature, human warrior ally. It has lifelink. When it enters, put a counter on each other creature you control. Yeah, this is another like limited style thing where like you go wide a little bit, and then for 5 mana you drop this down and you grow your army a little bit and you start swinging in. That's fine in Commander. Cabbages. The next Katara is Katara Seeking Revenge. This is a Dimir hybrid card, 4 mana, Dimir hybrid, legendary creature, human warrior ally. It's a 3/3. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you may waterbend 2. And when it enters, draw a card, then discard a card unless her additional cost was paid. And she gets +1/+1 for each lesson card in your graveyard. Now, I kind of find this interesting because she could potentially be very big if you have a lot of lessons in your graveyard. But as we've noticed before earlier, I think you have to be 5-color lessons to really like make her significantly large, even like mid to late game. There's just not that many lessons to grow her. And then the rest of the card is kind of like bad, right? Like 4 mana and then also waterbend 2, so you can ETB draw a card with a 3/3. Again, absolutely fine in limited, in Jumpstart, I'm sure much more significant there, but in Commander, not so much. This Katara is also, unfortunately, Cabbages. Aha, but now we get to a very good Katara. This is Katara the Fearless. 3 mana Bant, legendary creature, human warrior ally. It's a 3/3. If a triggered ability of an ally you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. This is a roaming throne for allies, but it's 3 mana instead of 4. It doesn't have ward, but whatever. It's 3 mana instead of 4, and it's really good. If you're an ally deck, typically speaking, most allies have triggered abilities. The original Zendikar allies were all like ETB triggers. And even the latest avatars too, like they usually have like enter the battlefield triggers, or like firebending is a triggered ability too. So like there's a bunch of ways that like allies just like constantly trigger. So I think you just throw Katara into any ally deck and you're going to be very, very happy you did. You could also have Katara lead an avatar deck. She's 3 mana, so she comes out very early. She can come out before you start dropping down allies. And she gives you access to 3 colors. It's fantastic. And who doesn't want a roaming throne in the command zone? That's amazing. So yeah, this card is very, very strong. I don't know if she's going to be more popular in the command zone, in the 99. I would imagine maybe more popular in the 99, but like, I don't know, 3 colors, 3 mana commander, that's what I want in a commander, like something that I want early to help me early mid game, have an engine, get value so I can go off into the late game and be strong there. So yeah, Katara, I think is great in the command zone. I think she's great in the command zone. Roaming Throne in the command zone for allies, 3 colors, 3 mana. It's a very good. But you can also put it in 99. She's going to be great too. All right. The Experience Katara is also incredibly powerful. Katara, Waterbending Master. Arguably, I think, is the strongest Katara out of all of them. It's a 2 mana blue, legendary creature, human warrior ally. It's a 1/3. Whenever you cast a spell during an opponent's turn, you get an experience counter. Whenever Katara attacks, you may draw a card for each experience counter you have. If you do, discard a card. So, my gripe with this card is that it says it's a Waterbending Master, and yet she doesn't waterbend on the card, which I think is a flavor fail. Like, all the other experience counter cycle thingies, they all bend because they're all bending masters. But for some reason, Katara doesn't. It's not that she needs it, though. As I alluded to before, I think she's the strongest one because being able to cast spells on your opponent's turn is really easy. You just cast instants. It's very simple. You can even cast flash spells too. But like just like casting like Consider, it's like, oh, okay, I got an experience. Oh, I play Opt. Oh, I get another experience. Yada yada. I just keep doing that. And you just drown in experience counters. And then when she attacks, you get to draw a card for each experience counter you have. So she's a 2-drop. Getting experience counters is very easy. It's very easy to come up with a scenario very consistently where like you play Katara on turn 2, you cantrip on turn 3, and then on turn 4, you attack with her and you draw like 4 cards, 3 cards even, discard 1. That's great. Yeah, she needs evasion. She's a 1/3, so she's probably going to die if she doesn't have evasion or something. But again, you're in blue. It's pretty easy to find ways to give her evasion. And she's a 2-drop. She's a 2-drop, so this is great. This card is great for draw go. Really powerful, draws you infinite number of cards. Very powerful in the command zone because then she's like a guaranteed turn 2 play before you start casting your opts and whatever afterwards. Is she fine in the 99? Probably. Like in a draw go deck, even in the 99, she's still very good. And you don't even need to worry about giving her evasion. Like just play her on turn 2, whatever, for 2 mana whenever, and then just suicide her into an enemy. You draw 5 cards. Oh, that's good to me for 2 mana. Seems fine. Yeah, card's very, very strong. I think this Katara is actually stronger than Panharmonicon Katara, and she's going to be a very, very scary. I would say, like, if she shows up in Arena, she's going to be like an insane brawl commander, like very obnoxiously strong. And then even in Commander, like, just she's very strong as like a draw go commander. You can go Voltron of her because then, you know, take care of her evasion too. And beat people with insane card draw, I guess. Next, we have Katara, Water Tribe's Hope. This is the last Katara. It's a 5 mana Azorius legendary creature, human warrior ally. It's a 3/3 with vigilance. And when Katara enters, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. And as Waterbend X, X can't be 0. And creatures you control have base power and toughness XX until end of turn. Activate only during your turn. So this one seems like the waterbending version of Katara, that if you want to build like a waterbending deck, you pick her. I feel like she's a little bit disappointing in that regard, though, because like she enters, she makes 1 token with her. So that's like 2 waterbending bodies. And then her waterbending ability is just a finisher. So she's not even very good in the command zone, I don't think. She's very good in the 99. Because typically you don't want to activate her waterbending ability until the mid to late game. And she doesn't really do that much for you early game. So I don't really like her too much. I think she's great. Or I don't really like her too much as a commander. I think the card's really cool in the 99, but as a commander, not so much. I guess she is fine in the command zone too if you just want to be like waterbending and I want to be Azorius. Also her activated ability, her anthem ability is interesting in that like if you are attacking with smaller creatures that need to get in for combat, you can just threaten to waterbend, right? Like you don't have to spend, like if you have 4 mana up, you don't have to spend it to turn them into 4/4s. And that should be enough to like make your opponents not block. And if they do block, then you do waterbend and you kill their blocking creatures. So that's kind of a cool application of the waterbend before you use it as a finisher. It also works really well with earthbending and like animating lands because they're all 0/0s. So if you like waterbend 5, you're giving all of your land creatures +5/+5 essentially. And then also if you're like a white ally creature token deck that's all 1/1s, it's not as much value. It's 1 less value, but like still, like you have a bunch of 1/1s and you waterbend and you turn them into like 6/6s. That's a good way to end the game. So I think she's great in the 99, less useful in the command zone, but yeah. And I also think the art is really, really cool. I like the lighting in this one. Oh my god, we still have so many. So many. Oh boy. All right. So great in the 99. We're going to speed it up. We are speeding things up now. Ko the Face Stealer. Okay, I love the design. I'm not going to go too deep on the design of the card, but the flavor is really, really cool. It matches the design very well. I don't care because we need to speed things up. 6 mana black. Legendary creature, Shapeshifter Spirit, 6/6. When it enters, exile up to 1 other target creature. Whenever another non-token creature dies, you may exile it. You can pay 1 life. Choose a creature card, exile with Ko. Ko has all activated abilities, all activated and triggered abilities of the last chosen card. You can do silly things with its face-changing ability, which is very cool. You can do like Vivi combos with it, if in case Cauldron dies and Vivi's still around. Don't worry, you could still do Ko Vivi shenanigans. It's not going to be as good, but whatever. Anyway, very, very cool card. As a commander, maybe if you're doing like combo shenanigans, I can imagine maybe you do like mono black Ko Face Stealer combo shenanigans, but also just like throwing this into the 99 of like any random deck. It's a 6 mana 6/6 that ETBs exiles a creature, right? And then everything else is like extra bonus. And also, you can just, it's graveyard hate, right? Like if your opponent's creatures are dying, you can just exile them instead. So just like passively annoying your opponents if they have graveyard strategies going on. Card's great. Love it. Gotta move on though. Ko, I feel like, is going to be seeing the most play as just like generic value. Just jam it into any black deck and it's going to do serious work. In the command zone, it probably enables combos. I can't think of any at the top of my head, and I don't want to because I'm moving on. Okay, Lowen Li, Royal Advisors, 4 mana, black, legendary creature, human advisor. It's a 3/3. Whenever an opponent discards a card or mills 1 or more cards, put +1/+1 counter on each advisor you control. You get paid 3 mana, 2 and a Dimir hybrid. Target player mills 4 cards. So this is kind of like a leader for your advisor deck. Advisors don't really have a lot of support in Magic. Maybe that will change at some point where this card's a little bit better. But there is an advisor that mills very well. It's Persistent Petitioners. And when this card got previewed, people were speculating on Persistent Petitioners, being like, oh my god, this is going to be insane, I guess. And then they bought it out. And I think that's a little bit silly, because like Bruvak is right there and it's already much, much better than this. So I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter about power reasons though. People are going to speculate and sometimes they're going to be correct because I don't know. Maybe casual players will prefer this over Bruvak or forgot that Bruvak exists. I don't know. Anyway, or maybe they just really like Lowen Li and it's their favorite avatar characters, so they want a commander deck of it, and then they want the Persistent Petitioners in there. I don't know. I'm tired. I'm gonna switch over and say this is good in the command zone, but yeah, that's it. Lowen Li, if you're in an advisor deck and you're milling and you're Persistent Petitioners, it's good in the command zone. The uncommon version is also kind of interesting. Lowen Li, Twin Tutors, 5 mana black, legendary creature, human advisor. It's a 2/2. When it enters, search your library for a lesson or noble card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Noble creatures you control and lesson spells you control have lifelink. It's a tutor on a stick, which is nice. And it's finding lessons and noble cards, which is, I guess, fairly rare. And it gives them lifelink, which is also nice. It's 5 mana. 5 mana is way too much for this. But I guess if your deck is built around like one specific lesson or one specific noble and you really need to find it, you can just run this and that's fine, I guess. You could just always find that. Or you could just run like a Diabolic Tutor, I guess. But then you don't get the 2/2 and you don't get the lifelink. So I don't know. Yeah, it's cute. Oh my god, I just realized. Oh my god. We can actually have Gran versus Lowen Li versus Aunt May. We're almost there. I guess we get Boomy in there. Actually, there's so many old people here. This is amazing. Oh, I was a fool. How did I just skip over everybody? Yeah, you could definitely do like an old people clash easily. Anyway, so maybe Grand Grand's less exciting in that regard, but I think she's my favorite. She's my favorite out of all of them. Anyway, Lonely Great in 99. Nah, it's probably Cabbages. Probably Cabbages. Long Fang, Grain Secretariat. It's a 3-mana Golgari hybrid legendary creature, human advisor, 2/3. Whenever another creature you control or a land you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. This is kind of sweet, maybe, if you manage to combo with it. Like, the idea here is that you earthbend, your lands, and then you sacrifice the earthbended land, so leave the battlefield, comes back as a land, and then you put a counter on a creature you control. So you get even more value out of sacrificing earthbended lands, and you could also sacrifice any other creature too. It's just like a payoff for sacrifice strategies. It's nice. The payoff isn't really huge. Maybe you can combo with it because it's uncapped and doesn't require mana or tapping or anything like that. So maybe. But yeah, that's my verdict. Maybe. Maybe pile. Longshot Rebel Bowman is what if Gutter Snipe also made non-creature spells cost 1 less to cast. The result is basically Gutter Snipe, but it's 4 mana, red. It's a legendary creature now because 2025 Magic. It's a human rebel ally. It's a 3/3 reach. Good. It has a bow. It should have reach. I hate it when archers do not have reach. It's my biggest Jimmy rustling thing ever in Magic, is whenever they have an archer and it doesn't have reach, I get very, very annoyed. So very happy it has reach. Non-creature spells cost 1 less to cast. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Longshot deals 2 damage to each opponent. I think this card's good. It's Gutter Snipe, but it's not just instant and sorceries. It's any non-creature spell. It costs 1 more mana, but it makes all your non-creature spells cost 1 less. I think that's a very fine trade-off to have. And I also like it's a slightly bigger body. It has a reach, and it's legendary. Nice. Longshot, definitely great in the 99. If you want to be pinging people by slinging a bunch of spells, he's your guy. Maya and Zuko, 4 mana, Grixis, legendary creature, human noble ally. It's a 3/5, firebending 3. You may cast ally spells and artifact spells as though they had flash. It's very nice. If you are in an ally deck, this is very nice because not only does it give your allies and artifacts flash, I guess it's also good in an artifact deck, but there's some other ways to give artifacts flash that are a little bit easier. Not only does it give your allies and artifacts flash, but it allows you to utilize that firebending 3. So you attack with Maya and Zuko, and you can immediately spend that 3 firebending mana to cast your ally spells and artifact spells. So it's a flash enabler, but also ramp for those same spells, which is very, very nice. Very good for a 4-drop Grixis card. Now, is it your commander? Is it part of the 99? Honestly, there are a lot of like Drago payoffy thingies happening in this avatar set that is tied to allies. So I could see this being the commander. If you're expanding beyond like avatar specific builds, then he's probably better. They're probably better in the 99. But yeah, I don't know. They're good both. I'm going to put Maya and Zuko in great in the command zone. It could be also great in the 99, no doubt about it. And also, side note, for people who are saying, oh, Zuko plus Katara, you're crazy. Maya and Zuko are perfect for each other. What's the deal? So much better. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section which team you're on, I guess. All right, My Jaded Edge. It's 2 mana, red, legendary creature, human noble. It's a 1/3 prowess, exhaust 3, put a double strike counter on Mai. We can skip it very quickly. She already got a good card. This one is not very good in commander. Probably excellent in, limited or whatever. And maybe, I guess, if you really want to, you can build Voltron around her because having a prowessy double striker is actually just very good for Voltron. So yeah, maybe it actually is. I don't know. I'll put it in the maybe pile. Yeah, this one could be like mono red Voltron, might as well. I feel like there are better red Voltron commanders out there, but this could definitely do the job on a budget. Next, we've got Maya's Scornful Striker, 2 mana black, legendary creature, human noble ally. It's a 2/2 with first strike. Whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, they lose 2 life. This card is kind of excellent if you're not casting non-creature spells. If you're like a very creature-heavy deck, throwing in Maya into the 99 is going to do a lot of passive damage to your opponents. You could also have her as a commander, I guess. I haven't really heard anybody buzzing about that, but she is 2 mana, so she comes out super early. If you're playing like in the first turn seats, you come out before people can start playing arcane signets and stuff. Like that's actually kind of good, and rampant growths and whatnot. So yeah, I feel like maybe she could be good in the command zone too if you build around making your opponents lose life. I'm not sure if there's enough support because she is mono black, so you have limited card pool to work with. But at the very least, like if you're in like Valgavoth, for example, you play Valgavoth, the Rakdos one, you put mine in the 999, she's going to do great work there. Even if you're burning yourself at the same time, who cares? And then if you're like a creature heavy deck, you could also just like throw her in for value. And then you could have her as a commander if maybe you can build around her in an interesting way. I'm not sure. All right, I think like obviously Valgavoth is going to be the easiest home for her. Group Slug is going to be the home in the 9-9, maybe in the command zone too. I don't know. Master Paku is interesting because he is self-mill for your lesson deck, which is important for the lesson deck. It's a 2-mana blue legendary creature human advisor ally. It's a 1/3 of prowess. Whenever it becomes tapped, target player mills X cards, where X is a number of lesson cards in your graveyard. So we've seen with like the lesson commander, which is Iroh, that you want to have a full beefy boy graveyard so you can flashback more stuff. And then there was other cards that were like, if you have 3 or more lessons in your graveyard, our cards get better. So Master Paku is really good in that regard, in that you can mill yourself with it. He's a 1/3 of prowess, so you can attack. Your opponents are probably not blocking it because if you have, instant speed shenanigans, he'll probably eat any blockers. And he's also really good for waterbending, obviously, because he's a waterbender. So you can tap him that way too. And then, if you have lessons in your graveyard, you can put more lessons in your graveyard. And if you have a lot of lessons in your graveyard and you don't want to mill yourself anymore, you can start milling your opponents and maybe win that way. But his primary purpose is just to self-mill, get that graveyard full of lessons. So Paku, I think great in 9-9 is a stretch, but he's very good in the lesson deck and nowhere else. I also forgot his name. I apologize. So Master P is... No, actually, I can't say that. Master Piando, I want to say is the name. If I get it wrong too, it's still better than Master P. I'm so sorry. 5-mana white, legendary creature, human warrior ally. It's a 4/4 with first strike. When it attacks, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal an ally, equipment, or lesson card from among them. Put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. I looked at the stats, the geometric calculator for Jet, who looks at the top 5 to find a mana value 3 or less, and the number was high. To get like a high consistent rate. This one, it's more flexible with ally, equipment, or lessons, but typically like when you're building a commander deck, you're not building something that's a mishmash of allies, equipment, and lessons. You're probably picking one of those things and sticking to it. So in commanders, probably too much of a whiff rate for this card to be good, especially it's like a 5-mana creature. It doesn't have haste, and it has an attack trigger. This is too much. It's probably decent in limited, probably aimed for draft, but in commander, I don't see it being playable. The master is Cabbages. All right, Moku Meandering Drummer, 2-mana. Red legendary creature, human bard ally. It's a 2/2. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you can pay 1. If you do, Moku gets +2/+1, and creatures you control get haste until end of turn. So this is an interesting way of like, if you're in a non-creature spell go wide deck or whatever, this is an interesting way of giving your creatures haste. But in commanders, this is more mana efficient ways of giving your creatures haste. And then, instead of having to spend 1 mana to do so, and then swinging in with like a 4/3 is like, not great. So Moku is also Cabbages. Next is Momo, Friendly Flyer. It's a 1-mana white, legendary creature, lemur bat ally. It's a 1/1. It has flying, and the first non-lemur creature spell with flying you cast during each of your turns costs 1 less to cast. Whenever another creature you control with flying enters, Momo gets +1/+1 until end of turn. This can kind of be interesting in like a Flying Matters deck, like a bird style deck, and then you like dump out a bunch of birds and the Momo gets big, but like, it's probably a little bit too cute. I guess a 1-mana ramp ability for like a very flying heavy deck actually isn't worse. Like, could you just like jam this in Giada Angels, right? Could you? Like, you just play Momo turn 1 or whatever, and then every single angel costs 1 less? Because you're not like chaining together angels every single turn. You're casting 1 per turn. Actually, you know what? I take it back. Momo's good. Momo's good. I don't think he's a good like commander, but maybe he's a good commander too. Who knows? But he's probably a playmaker in like random non-green flying decks. Let's say, You know what? Momo, great in the 99 of non-green flyers. Next, we've got Momo Playful Pet. It's also another one white mana legendary creature. Lemur Bat ally. It's a 1/1 flying vigilance this time. And when it leaves the battlefield, choose one. You create a food token, or you put a counter on target creature you control, +1/+1, or scry 2. So the pigeon from Spider-Man has already been power crept. And thank God, because now we have Momo, and he's adorable. I guess in a blink deck, this is kind of interesting, especially the food part, but also like you can grow creatures and stuff. I guess if you have infinite blinks, you can grow things infinitely large, I suppose. I don't know. It's not bad, but it's also not great, you know? It's fine. I feel like he's a maybe. There definitely has to be like some deck where Momo is good. I mean, I guess at the very least, he's just like a 1-mana 1/1 flyer, right? So like if you're playing, I don't know, like a ninja style deck, but you're in white, then he's actually very good because you just care about having a 1-mana 1/1 on turn 1 that flies. But I just can't think of any in white that does it. You know what? I'll put him in great in 99 because he's probably great in some like white based Edric style deck, I guess. Momo Rambunctious Rascal is a 3-mana white legendary creature lemur bat ally. It's a 1/1 flyer. When it enters, though, he deals 4 damage to target tap creature and opponent controls. That's kind of interesting, like an ETB kill spell on a creature for 3 mana is pretty solid in mono white, I guess. And he flies, but the creature does have to be tapped, and he doesn't have flash too, so you can't like flash this in response to an attacking creature and kill it that way. 4 damage is also kind of limited on how much you can kill, but he is a decent blink target, I guess. So yeah, I'll put him in the maybe pile. Monk Gyatso is a cool one though. This is a 4-mana white legendary creature human monk. It's a 3/3. Whenever another creature you control becomes the target of a spell or ability, you may airbend that creature. I think this card is actually super dope. So it's basically protection from targeted removal. If your opponents try to remove one of your creatures, you could just in response airbend it. So that's kind of like giving your creatures hexproof. Obviously, it's not as good as giving your creatures hexproof because like if your opponents just want a creature gone so they can attack you, they can still target your thing and force you to airbend if you want it to live. Whereas in hexproof, they just can't target your thing. So there's a downside there. However, the thing that's really interesting here is that you can like airbend creatures yourself. So like if you just want, if you have an ability that targets a creature, like an equipment or something like that, like you use Lightning Greaves to target one of your creatures just to reuse like their Enter the Battlefield trigger, you can airbend it. That sounds kind of amazing, right? So if you can utilize the airbending yourself and trigger it in your deck without like altering things too much, I think that gets very, very exciting. Yeah, this is a very cool card, but it needs the right build around to it. You want to be like a Blinky style deck, and you want ways of targeting your own stuff to make that blinking happen. And then on top of that, it's just like pseudo hexproof against your opponent's creatures, which I think is very cool. Unfortunately, he can't airbend himself. He can't save himself. R.I.P. Monk Gyatso. And I guess Flavor Win. But yeah, I think this ability is very, very cool. It's a very cool design. I don't know where I put it. I really like the design of this card. I think it's very cool. So I think I'm just going to put him in Tournament Favorites, not think about it too much. Next, we've got Nyla. It's a 5-mana black legendary creature mole beast. It's a 4/5. When it enters, exile up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard. If you do, you lose X life and you create X tokens, where X is that card's mana value. And at the beginning of your end step, if you control no clues, return target card exiled with Nyla to its owner's hand. This card's interesting. I don't know how good it is because it's like 5 mana, enter the battlefield, and that's it. It gets to do its thing one time. And that thing is potentially making like, I don't know, like 3 to 6 clue tokens lose that much life. And then eventually like you can crack those clues to draw cards slowly, which is never great. Or you can use those clues to waterbend and do more interesting stuff with it. And then eventually you get that creature that you exiled back to your hand, not to the battlefield, back to hand. I guess there's like a lot of value and a lot of different things going on with this card. I don't know if it's worth the 5 mana, but it's definitely an interesting build around. If you're like a clue deck in black, I think this card is much, much more interesting. But if you don't specifically care about clues, I feel like there's easier ways to either get a bunch of like artifacts on the battlefield or reanimate things or draw cards or whatever than this 5 mana thing. So Nyla, I think it's like a maybe. If you're like a black clue deck, maybe maybe Teysa clues then. Actually, now I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I'll put it great there. Why not? All right, here's an uncomplicated baddie that I very much like. It's Ozai, the Phoenix King. He's just evil, and he owns it, and I like that. It's 6 mana, Rakdos, legendary creature, human noble. It's a 7/7, trample, firebending 4, haste. If you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes red instead. Ozai has flying and indestructible as long as you have 6 or more unspent mana. So he comes in, he swings for 7 immediately, firebends 4, and the thing that I really like is that you don't lose that firebent mana. So if you're in like a firebending heavy deck, which I think he should be a leader for, you don't have to worry about spending all of it like on clues and instant stuff. You can actually potentially hold on to that mana later on, use that mana sorcery speed and whatnot, or on other people's turns, which is very cool. And he also gives himself flying and indestructible as long as he has 6 or more unspent mana, which is just 2 away from his own firebending 4. So if you have other firebenders or you just attack twice, becomes very, very good. Yeah, I think this card is really fun. It doesn't draw cards. It doesn't remove stuff. It does ramp you. I guess it is objectively just a good card. If we rate most things based on card draw and ramp, he does one of those things very well. He comes in with built-in evasion and indestructible potentially if you have enough mana locked in. He works very well with other firebenders, obviously. And he's neat. I think he's neat. I think he's very cool. He's huge mana advantage. Comes in swinging, lots of damage. Works very well with extra combats too, because you could take all that mana and then dump it into like an aggravated assault or something. Potentially take infinite combats if you have other ways of generating a little bit more mana too on swings. Yeah, I think he's fun. Ozai, definitely a build around commander, but he's also good. Like if you just jam him into the 99 of like Firelord Azula, for example, she doesn't need him. She's too good for that. But like you could, if you just want to put him in the 99 of a firebending deck, he will do an admirable job there. But he's also just very fun in the commands, and he's just big old 7/7, hits really hard, ramps really hard. That's fun. All right, we're skipping over this really fast. Pipsqueak, not commander playable cabbages. I don't know how to say the name. Princess Yue, I think. So I also forgot to mention, when I rewatched the show, I watched it in Portuguese with my partner. So they were pronouncing everything in Brazilian Portuguese, which may not even match up with how they say it in the English one. I don't remember. So anyway, that's my excuse for saying all the names wrong. Princess Yue, 3 mana blue, legendary creature, human noble ally. It's a 3/2, and it can tap to scry 2. And when it dies, if she was a non-land creature, return this creature to the battlefield tapped under your control. She's a land named Moon, and she gains tap, add 1 generic mana, or 1 colorless mana. She's still legendary, and she still has a scry 2, by the way. So you can still use her scry 2 even when she's the Moon. I love this card. It's hilarious design. You can throw her into like an aristocrats deck, and then she's just got 3 mana sack fodder that turns into a land, which is very funny. And yeah, I think she's definitely not a build around, rather. Like, I don't think this is a commander, because mono blue aristocrats where you just sacrifice your commander doesn't seem particularly strong, kind of limited. But in the 99 of like a blue based aristocrats deck, it sounds very funny. You can also like throw her into like a Moonfolk deck because it's a moon. Next, we got Professor Zay, Anthropologist. It's a 2 mana Izzet hybrid card. It's a 0/3 legendary creature, human advisor ally. You can tap it to discard a card, draw a card, and you can pay 1 mana, tap, sacrifice, return target instant sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand, activate only during your turn. This card's great for just like doing instant and sorcery spellslinger stuff, right? Like, he's a 2-drop, he rummages for you, he gets stuff into your graveyard. So if you're like a lesson deck that cares about like instant sources in your graveyard or a flashback or whatever, you care about the graveyard, you care about having stuff there in the graveyard. That's fun. And then eventually you pop him and get back an instant sorcery. The only annoying thing is that you have to do it on your turn. So like if somebody board wipes or something or kills him on their turn, you can't like in response get back an instant sorcery. Whatever. I still think it's like a very solid card, not like particularly strong or anything, but just very solid. A fine inclusion in any graveyard-based instant sorcery deck. So like Lessons. Okay, so the Professor, great in the 9/9. Next, we've got Rannin Shaw. It's a 5-mana red legendary creature dragon. It's a 4/4 flying firebending 2. When it enters, if you cast them and there are 3 or more dragons and or lesson cards in your graveyard, create a token that's a copy of Rannin Shaw, except it's not legendary, and you can pay 4 mana dragons you control, get +2/+0 until end of turn. This one's interesting. For 5 mana, you can potentially get 8 power on the board, flying, and firebending 2. And if you don't have anything better to do with your firebending 2, you could just pay 4 mana, and your dragons get +2/+0 until end of turn. It could be decent in a lesson deck because lessons often have a lot of instants, so you can utilize the firebending that way to cast your instant lessons. You can also put it in a dragon deck, but that's a little bit more sussy because you need to have dragons in your graveyard. If you're like a graveyard-based dragon deck, then maybe it's less sus to get 3 dragons into the graveyard. And then its pump ability is more relevant in a dragon deck if you can go wide with it. I don't know. It's like in a weird position where I love the design of it. It's a very cool, unique card, but I just don't know if it's worth the hoops to jump through it to have this happen. I guess 8 power for 5 mana is okay, and then the firebending's good. I guess you put it in like a lesson deck. I think dragons, you have plenty of good dragons already. You don't really need this, but maybe in a lesson deck. I don't know. We'll be generous and say like greater than 9/9 of a lesson deck, probably, and probably not good enough for dragons. Next, we've got Smellerbee, a rebel fighter. It's a 4-mana red legendary creature, human rebel ally. It's a 3/3 first strike. Other creatures you control have haste, and when Smellerbee attacks, you may discard your hand. If you do, draw cards equal to the number of attacking creatures. This card seems gas in a go wide deck, especially if you're like not in blue or something and have easy access to coastal piracy effects. Like imagine you're like your Boros go wide, or even like mono red go wide tokens. You empty your hand, obviously, and you attack with Smellerbee and your team, and then you just wheel out your hand and draw like 7 or whatever. Seems good to me. It's even a 3/3 first strike, so it could potentially survive combat, or at least like threat and pump spells that your opponents don't want to block it. So yeah, I actually think this card is quite good. In the 9/9, definitely. In the command zone, probably not, because it's just harder to do. Go wide in the command zone of mono red. Smellerbee, great in the 9/9. Next, we got Sokka and Suki. This is a 3-mana Jeskai legendary creature, human warrior ally. Whenever Sokka and Suki or another ally you control enters, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to that creature. Whenever an equipment you control enters, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. It's a 3/3. So I imagine this one is less an ally deck and more an equipment deck, like 3-color Jeskai equipment, and probably go wide, because then you can just like focus on playing a bunch of equipments and you don't have to worry about what you're equipping them to. You just equip them to the allies you create with them. So it's kind of like go wide equipment, which we've seen before. I think there's a Boros Nahiri that's pretty popular for that strategy. I think there might have been 1 or 2 other ones too. But this one is Jeskai, so you can throw all of those type of cards and throw them all together. So I think that's kind of interesting. I feel like this is definitely a commander. It's very specific on how you want to build around it. It's not like you can't just like throw it in any equipment deck or any ally deck, because equipment decks generally want to be just like all equip on one thing, not generally go wide. And allies don't really run that many equipments. So I think this wants to be a commander, and it's a very powerful one. It makes allies and equips them immediately, and that's good. So you just focus on the equipment part, and then you go wide, and then you have payoffs for having X amount of equipped creatures. That sounds cool to me. I like it. Sokka and Suki, great in the command zone. Sokka, Bold Boomeranger, is a 2-mana Izzet legendary creature human warrior ally. It's a 1/1. When it enters, discard up to 2 cards and draw that many cards. Whenever you cast an artifact or lesson spell, put +1/+1 counter on Sokka. I feel like as a commander, it's not doing enough that I'd be excited to have it. And then in the 99 of like an artifact deck that's graveyard based, or a lesson deck that's graveyard based, which I guess are just lesson decks, then it's kind of okay because you play it early on, you discard some artifacts and lessons to reanimate them later or fuel the graveyard, whatever. And then as you continue to play artifacts and lessons, Sokka becomes a real threat. He doesn't have evasion, he doesn't have any keywords or anything, so he's not like a super amazing beater or anything, but eventually he becomes like a decent blocker and then possibly an attacker. So I think he's okay in the 99 of like graveyard-based artifact and lessons. Sokka, great in the 99. Sokka Lateral Strategist is a 3-mana Azorius hybrid legendary creature, human warrior ally. It's a 2/4 with vigilance. Whenever Sokka and at least one other creature attack, draw a card. Pretty easy to draw a card. He's basically an uncommon Azorius hybrid Phyrexian Arena if you manage to attack with him every single turn with another creature. Obviously, he doesn't have evasion. He's just a 2/4. He does have vigilance, which is nice, but like you need to give him evasion. You need to work for it a little bit, and you need to attack with another creature. But I think this is like borderline playable. Like you're not super excited to run this. It's definitely a budget inclusion, but like, yeah, if you need to draw some cards, he's fine and go wide. So Sokka's like a definitely a maybe. He's not great, but he's like, he will get the job done for drawing cards. Sokka Swordmaster, 3-mana white legendary creature human warrior ally. It's a 3/3 vigilance. Equipment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each ally you control. At the beginning of combat on your turn, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to Sokka. So, by himself, just like imagine, like ignore like trying to put him in allies. I don't think putting him in ally decks is the way to go. But like by himself, he's a pretty decent like Voltron-y commander type thing where he's a 3-mana 3/3. All your equipments cost 1 less because he is an ally, so all of them just cost 1 less. And then at the beginning of combat, he just equips 1 thing for free. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Like he's saving you a lot of mana. He's essentially just a mana reduction for equipment decks. You don't necessarily have to make him your commander, but like typically the way that I see most equipment decks, they are like Voltron oriented, where you just like equipments get better if you put more of them all on the same thing, right? Like if you give one creature a Loxodon Warhammer and has lifelink, well, it's going to gain you more life if you throw all the equipment on one creature and it becomes really, really big, you know? So I feel like he's probably a Voltron commander, not like the most powerful Voltron commander for equipment or anything in white, but he's a decent one. And you can like throw him in the 99 of like other equipment decks and he'll do a fine job, especially if you're like going wide with equipments. It's not like out of the ordinary. It's not like impossible for it to happen. Like the 3-color Jeskai Sokka deck is probably the best home for this card. And now that I'm saying that out loud, yeah, this is where you want to put him. You want him in the 99 of the Jeskai one because then, you know, it poops out allies and it wants to care about equipments. That's the main focus. And then you can start casting your equipment spell for like 0 mana. And this is pretty good. And they auto equip to the allies. Like you can equip 1 to Sokka, sure, but they all equip to the allies that are being made. So yeah, that's great. So Sokka Swordmaster, I think he's going to be fine in the command zone. But really, I think he's best suited in the 99 of Sokka and Suki. Apparently, Sokka has not 1, but 2 good commanders. Sokka Tenacious Tactician drops the whole equipment shenanigans and just goes wide with tokens. This is a 4-mana Jeskai legendary creature human warrior ally. It's a 3/3 menace prowess. Other allies you control have menace and prowess, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. This might be one of the strongest ally decks, ally commanders they've ever printed. Allies, I mean, are not creatures, or creature spells, not non-creature spells, but allies like having a lot of allies entering the battlefield, and this is one of the best ally token generators in the entire game. You cast a non-creature spell, any non-creature spell, you get a 1/1 white ally. That's pretty good for a 4-mana Jeskai commander. And then also, you're pumping up your allies too by giving them menace and prowess. And he also has menace and prowess. And he gives you access to 3 colors, and he's only 4 mana. Yeah, this card is kind of gross if you want to play allies. and you don't mind having more non-creature spells than ally spells, and you just pick like the strongest allies that buff other allies entering the battlefield and stuff, I think Sokka is a slam dunk for that strategy. He seems very mana efficient. He's a very powerful engine. And he not only provides allies, but he's also the finisher because he gives everything prowess and menace to. So why not? Card seems insanely strong. So yeah, this Sokka I think is the strongest of all the Sokkas. Not as strong as Firelord Azula, but definitely up there in terms of crazy power. All right, Sokka, Wolfco's Protector, Cabbages. Suki, Courageous Rescuer, is a 3-mana white legendary creature, human warrior ally, 2/4. Other creatures you control get +1/+0. Whenever another permanent you control leaves the battlefield during your turn, you create a 1/1 white ally creature token. This ability triggers only once each turn. It's a little bit of an anthem and a little bit of an ally token generator as long as you're having things leave the battlefield. Could be a fetch land, could be a clue, could be whatever. It's not that much value, but it is at least like if you're in an ally deck, you probably still just want to run her because it's a little bit of an anthem and she provides more allies. That said, if you're running like Jeskai Sokka, then I would probably just spend the mana recasting Sokka than spending the mana in a slot to cast Suki, honestly, because he just does it so much better. Like, you can see the difference on how efficient one is to the other. This one's capped at 1, very minor buff, and requires a hoop to jump through, a nothing hoop. Whereas Sokka's just like, oh yeah, I just cast non-creature spells. I'll poop up infinite amounts of them. Oh, Anthem ability? Yeah, just prowess and menace on everything. Why not? So yeah, Suki kind of gets overshadowed by Sokka, just because we looked at that card just now and it's ridiculous. So Suki is like, it's like fine. It's maybe a maybe. Like, oh man, it should be greater than 99, but we just looked at how insane Sokka Tenacious is. You know what? I'll just put it in the greater than 99. Let's just leave it there. Ooh, we got Suki Kyoshi, Captain, 3-mana white legendary creature, human warrior ally. It's a 3/3. Other warriors you control get +1/+1, and you pay 4 mana. Attacking warriors you control gain double strike until on turn. Not a particularly strong card, but like if you're playing a warrior deck, you can live a little, you know? If you're playing like Warrior Najeela, it doesn't really matter what the 99 is. And you could just jam Suki there. And it's flavor, baby. Anywhere else, like, yeah, it's not very strong. All right, Suki, maybe. Like if you're in a Najeela deck and they're really aiming for warriors, because why not? Because they're Najeela, they could do whatever they want. All right, one last Suki. This is Suki Kyoshi Warrior. It's a 4-mana Selesnya hybrid legendary creature, human warrior ally. It has 4 toughness, and its power is equal to the number of creatures you control, so minimum 1. Whenever Suki attacks, create a 1/1 white ally creature token that's tapped and attacking that will probably die. It's fine. Probably better than the other Suki, to be honest. It always makes a token every single turn by just attacking. It's scarier damage. It's still not great, but it's fine. All right, Suki, you'll be a maybe. Tio Spirited Glider, 4 mana, blue, legendary creature, human pilot ally, 1/4 flying. Whenever one or more creatures you control with flying attack, draw a card, then discard a card. When you discard a non-land card this way, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Too much mana. Sorry. If it was like 2 mana, then it's like a looter, and that's fine. And then sometimes you grow things, that's fine too. 4 mana, absolutely not. Tio is Cabbages. This one I like a lot. The Blue Spirit. 4 mana blue legendary creature, human rogue ally. It's a 2/4. You may cast the first creature spell you cast each turn as though it had flash. Whenever a non-token creature you control enters during combat, draw a card. So if you're like fairly creature heavy, probably on the low end of like the mana value, like low cost, and you like playing draw go, this is a really great way of not only facilitating draw go, but also rewarding you for doing your Drago shenanigans, right? You're drawing cards as you're flashing stuff in. It's very efficient at what it's doing. 4 mana to give your stuff. Flash is nice. It's like a decent rate. It's a little bit restricted, but who cares? And then it's also drawing your cards, which is also nice. I think this is like very good for like fairies. Like it's not a fairy itself, but like fairies usually reward you for casting stuff on your opponent's turns. And there's actually some cards in the Avatar set that reward you for casting stuff on your opponent's turns too. We saw like the Katara one that has experience counters. This one gets experience counters when you're casting creatures on your opponent's turns, which is nice. And you're drawing cards. Yay. So yeah, card's cool. I like it. It's dope. It also works very well with firebending, by the way, too. All those firebending creatures that, make mana during the combat step and nowhere else, you can spend that mana to cast creatures with them now. It's very nice. It's probably the main point of the card, actually. Now I'm saying it out loud. But yeah, very cool card. Probably better in the 99 than the command zone, but I guess it is fine in the command zone too. Blue Spirit, definitely great in the 99. I mean, it's not as strong as Azula. Not very few things are, but I think this card's amazing. Also, it's fine as a commander too. The Boulder, Ready to Rumble. Whenever it attacks, you Earthbend. And it Earthbends amounts equal to the number of creatures power 4 or greater. It's fine. I don't know. Am I low on this card? I don't know. I also like that it's a performer because he's just a wrestler guy. I guess he's fine. He's a maybe. I guess if you really like Earthbending and you can give him haste, he's fine in an Earthbend deck. This card is what I would call my called shot of being CDH playable. The Cabbage Merchant, 3 mana green. Legendary creature, human citizen. It's a 2/2. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, create a food token. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, sacrifice a food token. Tap 2 untapped foods you control. Add 1 mana of any color. This card, the higher power you go, the more cabbages you're going to be pumping out, baby. This card can pump out them cabbages. Imagine CDH. Everybody's playing fast mana, slinging 0 cost instants and sorceries, casting free spells. All of those are non-creatures, and the Cabbage Merchant just keeps making food. He has 3 mana, so it's not nothing, especially when the game threatens to be ended on turn 1 or 2 or 3. Spending 3 mana is a worthy investment, and what do you get? You get some ramp. But still, I still think this card probably has legs in CDH, no? That seems pretty good. Everybody's going to be casting so many spells and you get so much cabbages, so many foods, and they tap for mana. It's good. I think outside of CDH, even outside of high power, if we're talking casual where I play brackets 2, 3, I still think he's still a fine card you could just throw into any deck. Because, people are going to cast non-creature spells. They're going to be casting them at a much slower rate than CDH, but nonetheless, I could imagine you just play the Cabbage Merchant and maybe you make 2 cabbages per turn cycle. I think that's absolutely fine. Obviously, your opponents are incentivized to hit you, which is not so fine because you're going to be taking extra damage and you're losing your cabbages. But yeah, I think this is just a generic card you can just slam into any green deck and it's going to get you value. And then on top of that, food decks, obviously. He can lead a food deck, no problem at all. Even in mono green, his ability is so strong that it's still fine going mono green and still trying to make it work. And then obviously, if you go into any other food decks, especially multicolor food decks, he's great in the 99s, where I think he's going to show up more often. But even as a commander, absolutely playable, definitely. Cabbage Merchant, okay, I know cabbages is D tier, but the Merchant is definitely very high rated. Maybe better than better than Azula in the 99. In the decks that want him, he's very, very good, but you can also just throw him in any deck and you can make him the commander. He's very versatile. All right, the Duke, Rebel Sentry, 1 white mana, legendary creature, human rebel ally, 0/1. The Duke enters with a +1/+1 counter on him. You can tap, remove a counter from the Duke, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains hexproof until end of turn. This card actually seems quite good in a counters deck, no? If you can add counters to the Duke, then you can repeatedly use him as a pseudo Mother of Runes, where you keep tapping him, removing a counter, adding counters to other stuff, and giving them hexproof for protection. And even if they don't need hexproof, you could just move counters to stuff. It's kind of like a Mikaeus effect. So I think actually in a counters deck, if you could repeatedly put counters on him, he's not bad as a 1-drop. The Duke, I will say, great in the 99. Why not? Here's another card that I think is generically very powerful. The Earth King. 4 mana, green, a legendary creature, human noble ally. It's a 2/2. When it enters, create a 4/4, a green bear creature token. Not legendary. Apparently has multiple Boscos or something. And then whenever one or more creatures you control with power 4 or greater attack, search your library for up to that many basic land cards, put them on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So if you're a basic land believer, which you should be, and you run at least like 5 of them, I guess, this is a pretty absurd ramp, I would say. You pay for 4 mana, and then you could immediately attack. Like, it doesn't have to be the Earth King or his bear to do the attacking. You can like play him and immediately attack with big power creatures, and then start ramping. And that seems great. And then if you have like a haste enabler, he comes with a bear, so you could just like haste up the 4/4 and attack with that, and that's very good. Yeah, he ramps very easily, and like, yeah, power 4 is a hoop to jump through, but you're on green. Most things are power 4 already in green. That's like the default. So yeah, he ramps a lot. He ramps a lot with very little requirements. You could just like throw him into basically any green deck, and you're probably going to have creatures that are big, because that's what green does. And then you just attack with them and you ramp. Okay. Yeah, very strong. Yeah, Earth King, you're top of the grade in 99. I think you just throw them into green decks, don't think about it too much, and you ramp. Nice. The most interesting card from the Avatar set, the Fire Nation Drill, 4 mana black, legendary artifact vehicle. It's a 6/3. It has trample, and whenever it enters, you may tap it. When you do, destroy target creature with power 4 or less, and you can pay 1 mana. Permanents your opponent's control lose hexproof and indestructible on the turn as crew 2. I'm very glad that it has the activated ability of Shadow Spear, because like we need more of those effects, and it was kind of a bummer that we only have like one thing that really does it very well. So Fire Nation Drill is another way if you can do it. It's a 6/3 trampler, ETB, kill something, crew is very easy, and then it starts hitting people. It seems like good value. Like, it's just like a ETB removal spell that also can start smacking people for 6 damage, and also can get around hexproof and indestructible. Seems great. It can be your commander. I don't think it should be your commander, but you can just like throw it into like a black deck, and it will do the job just fine, I think. And that job, by the way, is drilling holes into Ba Sing Se. But yeah, generically powerful, very solid. In like, you can just like throw it in a black deck, not think too much about it. The Lion Turtle, 3 mana, Simic, legendary creature, Elder Cat Turtle. It's a 3/6. Vigilance Reach. When it enters, gain 3 life. It can't attack or block unless there are 3 or more lesson cards in your graveyard, and you can tap it, add 1 mana of any color. It's good in the Lessons deck. It's not very good anywhere else. I guess it's also good in the Turtle deck. Rodrigo does have a Turtle deck. It has 6 toughness, which is already very good. And it's a turtle, and it's in Simic. So perfect for Pride of the Hull Cloud. Yeah, nice. Lion Turtle, great in 99 of lesson decks and turtle decks. The Mechanist, Aerial Artisan, 3 mana blue, legendary creature, human artificer ally. It's a 1/3. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a clue token. You can tap until end of turn, target artifact creature you control because of 3/1 construct artifact creature with flying. So the Mechanist is just like a very, very good clue generator. The only requirement is you're casting non-creature spells. So you have to be a non-creature heavy deck. So it could be like an artifact deck. It could be instant sorceries, whatever. Even Enchantress. I don't know. Why not? And then you just poop out a bunch of clues. Obviously, I think this ability lends itself best to an artifact deck out of all things. Because in an artifact deck, it's producing artifacts, right? So then you have additional synergies that care about the total number of artifacts you have on the battlefield. That's quite nice. If you're like a clue deck, it's also very good too. It's also very good for waterbending. I mean, waterbending is pretty specific. There's not a lot of waterbending cards, but if you are in a waterbending deck, this is also good because you can tap the clues for additional value. Works with firebending. Very, very nice. I think it works best in an artifact deck, but it's flexible. It's flexible in what you want to do with it. And is it best in the command zone or in the 99? I think the 99, because it just fits in so many different decks. But as a commander, it's like, yeah, I guess you could be mono blue clues, but like, why? All right, the Mechanist, definitely great in a bunch of non-creature decks. The Terror of Serpent's Pass, 7 mana, 8/8 hexproof. Obviously, Cabbages is cool in a Jumpstart pack, I guess, for new players, though. Next, we have the new Consecrated Sphinx, the Consecrated Eel, the Unagi of Kyoshi Island. It's a 5-mana blue legendary creature serpent. It's flash, ward, waterbend 4. It's a 5/5, and whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, draw 2 cards. So obviously, it's not as strong as Consecrated Sphinx. It's not going to draw close to as many cards. However, it costs 1 less mana, and the really important thing is that it has flash and has ward. Which is quite nice. So you can flash it in when your opponents are going to draw their second card. You can also ambush creatures too, because it's a 5/5, it's pretty beefy. And it also protects itself a little bit. Ward 4, essentially, waterbend 4. It's easier than ward 4, but still, it's better than nothing. And yeah, I think this card's very good. Again, it's another card that you can just like put it in any blue deck. It's going to get value because people are always drawing cards in Commander. It has a little bit of protection, which is nice. And then on top of that, if you are playing Draw Go, it gets much better. If you're playing stuff that like triggers on your opponent's turns, it gets much better. Yeah, just a very solid, good card. Definitely great in the 9/9 of basically any blue deck, really. The Walls of Ba Sing Se, 8 mana, colorless, 0/30, 30 toughness, amazing. A legendary artifact creature wall. It's a defender, and other permanents you control have indestructible. I don't know what there is to say here. It's a 0/30 wall. It's fantastic. I don't even care about the rest of the text. I mean, the rest of the text is good too. I like it. But yeah, this card is peak design. Amazing. 0/30. Indestructible to your stuff. Amazing. There's like Jaws of Defeat or something. There's like a black enchantment that's like your opponents lose life equal to like the difference between the creature's power and toughness. So they just like take 30 and die. And there's also like a Abzan from the same set, I assume, the same precon from the Dragon's Dark here. There's like an Abzan guy who like does kind of the same thing too. So obviously it's very good there. It's going to be tough to be your commander, but I don't know. This is hilarious. I love it. The flavor is on point. Tomer favorites. Toph Earthbending Master, 4 mana, green, legendary creature, human warrior ally. It's part of the experience cycle. It's a 2/4 landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you get an experience counter. Whenever you attack, Earthbend X, where X is the number of experience counters you have. What I like about this one is that if you like just jam it into a deck that wants to be Earthbending, it earthbends every single turn as long as you're attacking, right? So that's nice. It's not just like a one and done type thing. And getting experience counters is probably the easiest out of any of the cycle, right? Like just playing lands in a green deck. Are you kidding me? Super easy. Fetch lands, double the landfall triggers. Are you kidding me? Super easy. So this might be like the single strongest. No, I wouldn't say strong. I think Qatar is stronger still. But this is the easiest one to get experience counters for because landfall triggers are trivial. It's very easy. Is this a commander? Is this a 99? I think, honestly, it's an experience counter commander, so obviously it has strong incentives being in the command zone. But you could also just throw it in 99. It's going to do great things in like an Earthbend deck. It's only once per turn, but like getting landfall triggers is super easy. Your Earthbending is going to be super fast, super big, super fast. And it does it every single turn until it dies. So, yeah, it's a good card. Toph. We'll put a great in the command zone. Also great in 99, though. Toph, Greatest Earthbender. 4 mana, Gruul, legendary creature, human warrior ally. It's a 3/3. When it enters, Earthbend X, where X is the amount of mana spent to caster. And land creatures you control have double strike. I love this card. I think the thing that it scales with commander attacks, like the more you spend to recast Toph, the more the X Earthbend is just like cool thing for commanders. Like it's a kind of a nice way to offset commander attacks, and recasting commanders doesn't feel as bad to recast the same thing over and over again. And then land creatures you control have double strikes. This is like unabashedly we're Earthbending and we're attacking with land creatures, and that's I like that. That's cool. So I think this automatically becomes my personal favorite Earthbending commander. Again, it's not the strongest one, and I alluded to before when we were talking about Boomy that we have another stronger Earthbending commander in Gruul. This is not it, but it's my favorite. I like this one a lot. I would definitely put this in the command zone. It makes a little bit more sense in the command zone than the 99 because, you know, you can Earthbend more as you recast her, and you Earthbend for more. And I also like the double strike thingy. I like it. It's very fun. So I think Toph is my personal favorite earthbending commander. Definitely not the strongest earthbending commander. We'll get to that one soon enough. But it's my personal favorite. All right, here we go. Possibly the strongest earthbending commander, at least from my first impressions. Toph, Hard-Headed Teacher. This is a 4-mana Gruul, legendary creature, human warrior ally. It's a 3/4. When it enters, you may discard a card. If you do, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Whenever you cast a spell, Earthbend 1. If that spell is a lesson, put an additional +1/+1 counter on that land. So this off, I think, is the strongest earthbending commander. You ignore the discard text. That is extra bonus. You ignore the lesson part. That's also extra bonus. You don't have to run a single lesson in your card. You can just ignore all that part. Just focus on the part that says whenever you cast a spell, Earthbend 1. That's the only thing that really matters to make this card the best earthbending commander in the game. All you want to do is you want to chain together a bunch of spells, keep them super cheap, cantrippy. Probably you want to go like artifacts that like replace themselves and then like a cost reducer to cast them for 0 mana. Go like full eggs. And then you run all the fetch lands, every single fetch land you can in Gruul. And then you just earthbend like crazy. Like you just chain together a bunch of spells. You earthbend all your fetch lands and stuff. Run cards that let you sacrifice lands for value too. And then you have a wild time. Oh, the lands also enter the battlefield tapped. That's not a really big problem if you're running stuff like Spelunking, Amulet of Vigor, stuff that lets your lands enter the battlefield untapped. And then you just like storm off. You're like Gruul Earthbend Storm. You immediately ramp out all the lands in your deck. You pop off and you have a great time. And it's very, very powerful. It's very, very powerful. And then the beauty of this strategy too is that even if you don't like win immediately, you have all the lands in your deck onto the battlefield very quickly after like fetching a billion times and earthbending the fetches. So yeah, this card's incredibly strong. And yeah, I don't look forward to playing against it because I'm not a green landfall player. I do not like playing green landfall, but I know this is going to be a popular one. Woo! So yeah, Toph, Hard-Headed Teacher. Yeah, this one's super strong. Toph, the Blind Bandit. It's just a 3-mana green legendary creature, human warrior ally. 3 toughness, power equal to the number +1/+1 counters on lands you control, and then when it enters the battlefield, you're Earthbend 2. Not too much to say about this one. It's not like the worst on terms of like Earthbending. Like you get a 2/2 creature essentially, and then you get a relatively large creature on a 3-drop. It definitely has synergy potential into the battlefield, blinky potential. But yeah, it's not like super strong or anything in Commander. This stuff is like, it's like a maybe. Like sometimes you won't, if you're in like a super dedicated Earthbend deck, maybe you just want to throw it in there just for fun. Next, we have another very, very strong commander that's also Toph, that's also Earthbendy. Toph the Metalbender. This is a 4-mana Naya, legendary creature, human warrior ally. It's a 3/3 non-token artifacts you control are lands in addition to their other types. At the beginning of your end step, Earthbend 2. So I think the other Toph, the Gruul Toph, is more powerful than this one, but this one is also incredibly strong. So you're playing like kind of artifacts, and you're going to find ways of playing a lot of cheap artifacts that want to be sacrificed, basically, because you basically they become lands, and then you earthbend on lands, and then you like sacrifice those lands for value. So there's like, I know there's like a bunch of artifacts that say like when it goes to the battle, when it goes into the graveyard, you draw a card. So they're like 2 drops or whatever. You turn, those are lands now. So you tap them for mana, and then you eventually earthbend them. And then eventually you sacrifice them to like whatever, like a Zuran orb or whatever. And then you get the death triggers and they come back. And then you get more value out of them. So you keep doing that a billion times, Solemn Simulacrums, everything. So this is a very interesting design. This is probably like one of the most interesting Earthbend commander out of all of them, because like you have to use artifacts, and then the artifacts become lands. There's a lot of builder ramp potential. I still just want to punch people in the face with animated lands. I'm a very simple man, but I feel like this one has probably like the most interesting, unique brewing potential around it. I mean, obviously unique in the sense that like once people figure out the best way to play Toph, everybody's going to just build that way. But it is a very weird concept, and I like that. This card is super cool, very powerful as well. Probably more interesting than all the other Earthbound commanders, at least in my opinion, because you have to incorporate artifacts into it and figure out which ones work well with what Toph is doing. It's cool. I like this one a lot. Also terrified to play against it. Tui and La, Moon and Ocean, 4 mana blue, legendary creature, Fish Spirit. It's a 3/3. Whenever it becomes tapped, draw a card. Whenever it becomes untapped, put a counter on it. This is just like great if you're, water bending, obviously, but also like convoking and stuff like that. If you're like playing a deck that just requires tapping your creatures constantly for value, Tui and La is just like very good. Just like passively drawing you cards. It grows too, so it becomes a threat. It's quite nice. And it's also uncapped. So if you can like tap it, untap it, tap it, untap it. I'm thinking like an intruder alarm plus like intruder alarm plus, like an earthcraft effect where you can like untap all your creatures and then like tap your creatures for mana and repeatedly do that while casting more and more spells, more and more creatures. You can have super fun with it. As a commander, might be a little bit too limited. As part of the 99 in like a tap untap shenanigans type deck, it's super good and probably is also going to be like a combo outlet to like, infinite untap taps, draw your entire deck, then win somehow. Yeah, cards are very good. Tui and La, incredibly strong, great in the 99 in very specific decks. Ty Lee, Artful Acrobat. This one, okay, the video is getting insanely long right now, so I'm just going to skip over this and just say it's not very good in Commander. Next. Ty Lee, Chi Blocker is significantly better. It's 3 mana blue, legendary creature, human performer ally. It has flash, it has prowess. It's a 2/1. When it enters, tap up to 1 target creature. It doesn't untap during its controller's untap step for as long as you control Ty Lee. We're almost done, friends. We're almost done. My voice is gone. So I feel like this card is like a 1v1 card. Like this is a very, very strong, probably to see play in Standard, I would hope. Yeah, it looks very good in 1v1 strategies. In Commander, I guess it's still playable. It's still decent in some regards. It's not full on removal, but it is very annoying against certain creatures that want to be attacking or whatever. It removes blockers. It also, because it has flash, it means that if you're playing like a Drago style deck, this is actually quite good. So yeah, I take it back actually. It's fine in Commander. I probably wouldn't want it in the command zone, but in certain Drago style decks, even in Commander, it's going to be quite good. But I also imagine it will be pretty decent in like 1v1 formats too. So Ty Lee, great in the 9/9. Uncle Iroh, a 3 mana Gruul hybrid, legendary creature, human noble ally. It's a 4/2, has firebending 1, and lesson spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Good in the lesson deck, bad anywhere else. So Iroh, great in the 99 of lessons, and that's it. Wen Shi Tong, All Knowing, is a 5 mana blue legendary creature, Bird Spirit. It's a 4/4 flying. When it enters, target non-land permanent's owner puts it into their library, second from the top, or on the bottom. And whenever one or more cards are put into a library from anywhere, create 2 1/1 colorless spirit creature tokens with this token can't block or be blocked by non-spirit creatures. So I really like this card. I think the design here is incredibly unique and interesting, and it's still also quite powerful. So 5 mana, it's an ETB, it's a bounce ability, more powerful than your average bounce to hand. It actually goes into the library. And it can hit any non-land permanent, so it's quite flexible. And that makes it a good option for like blink strategies and stuff because it's a really strong ETB. And then it also has a really unique trigger where like whenever one or more cards are put into a library from anywhere, you create 2 spirits. And those spirits are going to be your finishers because you can really start going ham on that. So the first things I think about are like stuff that are like brainstorm effects. You brainstorm, you make 2 1/1s. There's stuff that say like put a card from the graveyard into the library or something like that. You could do that repeatedly and keep making 1/1s. There's got to be a lot of really unique things that work that aren't very good by themselves, but then Wen Shi Tong makes them very, very good. So obviously this is definitely a build around and a very unique ability at that. And yeah, I'm very excited about this card. It's very cool. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, Wen Shi Tong, I really like the ability. It's cool. It's really neat. But that's not the most busted version of this owl. This is the most busted version of the owl. Wan Shi-Tong Librarian. It's X and double blue. Legendary creature, bird spirit. It's a 1/1 with flash, flying vigilance. When it enters, put X +1/+1 counters on him, then draw half of X cards, rounded down. Whenever an opponent searches their library, put a +1/+1 counter on Wan Shi-Tong and draw a card. So this is basically Archivist of Ogma on absolute steroids on 2025 design. Archivist of Ogma is a card that I run a decent amount in my white decks in Commander, because especially at like higher power tables, like I'm bracket 3, 4, definitely higher than that, but I guess you don't play it in CDH. At higher power tables, people are always like running fetch lands and stuff, searching their library constantly. But even bracket 2 or whatever, lower power, green decks, be rampant, and fetch lands still show up, and searching still happens. So my Archivist, I will jam it in a lot of random white decks for just random value, and it will do a great job. Like sometimes it won't do a great job, but like on average, I would say like draws me like 4 cards, and that's more than enough for a 2-drop. And then we see this, and suddenly, oh man, it has the Archivist draw trigger, right? But then on top of that, it has flying and vigilance. It grows, so it becomes a big threat, and you could also just use it as a mana sink. So like mid to late game, you don't even have to worry about like people searching their library. You could just cast this at flash speed, instant speed, and draw a oodles of cards, and then who cares? Like, so the powerful, like the variance is almost gone on this card, where like it's never bad because you could just draw cards normally off it by using it as a man stick at instant speed, and then it's just like a 10 times better body. It has 2 great keywords. It grows. It's so good. It's so good. It's so strong. I don't know what's going on here. Because, like, okay, in Commander, fine. It's going to be an incredible card, and it's going to show up everywhere, and it requires no build around. It's a generic staple. Very, very, very strong. Who cares? In 1v1, though, I'm afraid, like, is this going to break Modern? Like, Modern runs a lot of fetch lands. Is this going to just be, like, dominating Modern? Is it going to be the new Psychic Frog, where just, like, people are going to be like, oh my god, it's so strong. What's going on? Maybe probably in Standard it's fine because there's not that much shuffling, but I think even in Standard it's fine. Like, even if there's not that many search triggers, like, is this not just like the ideal finisher for blue control? It's so good. This card is so strong. So in Commander, I would say this is the single strongest card to put in the 99. It could also be your Commander too. Like, why not? But I think this is also the single strongest card you could just jam into any blue deck. And I won't say it's like Rhystic Studies level of powerful. It's not. But you could just put it in any blue deck and it will make your deck better. That's basically where we're at. But it's not like at the same level of Rhystic Study or whatever, but it is very strong. This is a very strong card. Maybe it's less powerful than the Cabbage Merchant at like CDH or whatever, but man, this card is so wild. This card, I am surprised they printed this card with this text. Yue the Moon Spirit, 4 mana blue, legendary creature, spirit ally. It's a 3/3, flying vigilance, waterbend 5, tap it. You may cast a non-creature spell from your hand without paying its mana cost. So this is cheap big spells deck, but with a lot of work. Like, you want to have big non-creature spells in your deck, like Expropriates and 8 mana, whatever thing is. And then Yue wants you to have like a bunch of things on the battlefield, like, like the Clue Generator, we saw the Mechanist, anything that can go wide with a lot of creatures or tokens of whatever kind. And you waterbend them, and you ramp out those big Haymaker spells. That's kind of the idea. It's a bit clunky because you have to have the things to waterbend with, and then you have to have the big things to cast. So it's asking a lot from you. But the nice thing is that it is it's significant mana discount, and you can also cast the things at instant speed. So if it's a sorcery speed thing, you can cast it at instant speed on an opponent's turn. That's also very good. I don't know. This card is definitely very scary, but it does ask a lot of you. So it might be a little bit clunky, but it is scary. Like, if Yue is kind of allowed to do her thing, you're going to lose the game. But also, it's kind of takes a while for Yue to do her thing. So That's my initial opinion on it. I could be wrong. So UA, great in the command zone. Next, we have a couple Zhaos. Zhao Ruthless Admiral is a 4-mana Rakdos hybrid legendary creature human soldier. It's a 3/4 firebending 2. Whenever you sacrifice another permanent, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. So this is actually quite a strong anthem if you can sacrifice a bunch of things on a single turn, like sacrifice a fetch land, sacrifice a clue, sacrifice a bunch of stuff, and then suddenly your go wide team is very, very strong. It also has firebending too, which is quite nice. That said, is it worth all the work for this to be good enough in like a Rakdos sacrifice deck? Probably not. Like, you can probably get bigger yields for sacrificing things than just +1/+0 until end of turn for your creatures. But it is a cool, kind of interesting design, I guess. But still, maybe. It's a maybe. All right, Zhao, you're a maybe pile. All right, next we got Zhao the Moonslayer, and this is my favorite art in the entire set. I really, really like the art on this one. Honestly, like the episode where it comes from with the red light and everything was like super iconic too. So it definitely lends itself to really good artwork. But then the artist, Toraji, definitely nailed it with this assignment. Oh my god, I love it so much. Anyway, Zhao the Moonslayer, 2-mana red, legendary creature, human soldier, focus tome or focus, 2/2, menace, non-basic lands, enter tapped, 7 mana, put a conquer counter on Zhao. As long as there's a counter on him, non-basic lands are mountains, which is very funny. So this is a Blood Moon, but with a lot of extra steps. Baseline, 2-mana, 2/2, non-basics enter tapped. It slows down your opponents. It's going to be highly relevant, even in Commander. It's not really a good attack or anything, like it would be in maybe like 1v1. But, you know, just sitting around 2 mana, slow down your opponents is already kind of decent. 7 mana is a lot to turn on to a Blood Moon. That is a crazy amount of mana. And I think it probably, even despite all that, it's probably still banned. It's probably still banned in bracket 2 or whatever, in bracket 3, because it can be a Blood Moon, which is a little bit sad, but whatever. But yeah, it's a very good enabler from firebending, right? Like if you do a lot of firebending, then you can probably pay the Conqueror counter, but it's a lot of work. It's still a lot of work to get the Blood Moon effect, but the baseline is very good. And I think that's the main point of the card, is the baseline is good. 2 mana, non-basics, enter tapped. Slows down your opponents a lot. And then the Blood Moon is just kind of like, it's nice when it happens, but it probably doesn't happen very often. I like the art. I don't think the card's very good in Commander, mostly because people are just going to be terrified of the Blood Moon effect, and also you just want people. I don't think you're even allowed to play it at brackets 2 and 3 unless you have like, you know, explicit permission, I guess, which is lame. I don't know. So I don't think the card is very good in Commander. But it is, I like the art a lot. Okay, I'm going to put it in Tome of Fairy just because I like the art. All right, Zhao, the Seething Flame, Cabbages. Zuko Avatar Hunter is actually kind of interesting, though. It's a 5-mana red legendary creature, human noble. It's a 4/5 with reach. I don't know why it has reach. That's interesting. Whenever you cast a red spell, create a 2/2 red soldier creature token. So if you can manage to like cast a bunch of red spells, you get a bunch of soldiers. They don't have firebending or anything, but like, he's a pretty good token generator. Just cast a bunch of red spells. So if you're in the mono red deck and you're kind of stormy, this can make a lot of red tokens. Then how do you utilize them properly? You need to give them haste. And obviously red is very good at giving them haste. So that's one. And then number 2 is like, I don't know, can you tap them for mana easily? Probably not. I guess you can give them firebending. There's like Sozin's Comet or whatever. Yeah, I think this card's good. I just don't know how good it is. Like, yeah, you go mono red Zuko. But then you're kind of forced Storm, because like, how do you keep going by casting spells? He's also a 5-drop. So you need to cast him and then like get your money's worth. So that means basically you're mono red Storm, and then you have to utilize the 2/2 somehow. I don't know. Very interesting card. Potentially very powerful, but I just don't know how you build them. Zuko Conflicted is also a really interesting card. I really like the design. It's 2 mana Rakdos, legendary creature, human rogue. It's a 2/3. At the beginning of your first main phase, choose one that hasn't been chosen and you lose 2 life. You either draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on Zuko, add 1 mana, or finally exile Zuko, then return him to the battlefield under an opponent's control. Which, I mean, story-wise makes a lot of sense. He's conflicted. He turned against he went with the Fire Nation, turned against his uncle, and you know, the Avatar gang and everything. And then at the very end, he switches sides, which is the exiling part and going to the opponent's side. I love the design of it. As a card, power-wise, I think it's also quite interesting, where it's basically like a 2-mana Phyrexian Arena-ish effect. Not really, though. You get like, if you play this turn 2, turn 3, you draw a card, and then turn 4, maybe you make a mana or you get a counter, and then eventually you want to sacrifice him, basically, if you're in Rakdos, right? Like, you want to sacrifice him before you give him to an opponent, which is kind of morbid. Yeah, I don't know how good the card is, actually, but it is an interesting design. So yeah, that's cool. So Zuko, maybe. He's a maybe. I don't know how good he is, but he is interesting. Zuko Exile Prince is also very interesting. 4 mana, red, a legendary creature, human noble. It's a 4/3, firebending 3, and you can pay 3 mana, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. So just by himself, you can have imagine him as a baseline. It's 4 mana. He's a 4/3. Whenever you attack, you impulse draw 1. I mean, that's not great, but like in mono red, that's actually kind of fine. And then hopefully you can do much better things with him, right? Like you have a 4/3, firebending 3. You can build around the firebending. You could build around the impulse draw. If you make a lot of mana, you can potentially draw a lot of cards in a single turn. So yeah, there's definitely, it's more interesting than what I said as the baseline being. But yeah, obviously, definitely a lot of building around here, right? Like he's just a 4/3 for 4. So you need to help him survive combat, obviously. And then you have to do cool things with your firebending, other than just like drawing cards with him, because it's not super efficient. But once you do, I think he is definitely interesting and could show up in multiple decks. I just don't know which ones. Okay, bye. Zuko, I'm going to put right beside Uncle Iroh in Greater Than 99 in very specific decks, I assume. All right, this Zuko is also quite strong. Again, it's the last one of the experience counter cycle. Zuko Firebending Master, 2 mana, red, legendary creature, human noble ally. It's a 2/2, first strike, Firebending X, where X is the number of experience counters you have. And whenever you cast a spell during combat, you get an experience counter. So, I mean, this kind of, the experience counters kind of lead into exactly how firebending works. You firebend, and then you want to use that mana during combat, usually by casting spells. So you do that, and then Zuko gets more experience counters, and then you firebend for more, and it keeps going. It's very cool mana generation in red, and it feels very red too. So I really, really like this design. He also has first strike, so like he works very well with like pump effects, because yeah, he's just a 2/2. He only has 2 toughness, but if you just pump up his power with stuff like Fist of Flame, cantrippy type things that pump up his power ability, then he can attack just fine. It's not a big deal, and you're also gaining experience counters on the way. So he's definitely an interesting build around. I actually do like him as a commander, but you can also just like throw him into the 99 of any firebending deck, because if you're casting spells during combat, he will passively gain firebending more and more. So I like that. Also, you could like throw all the experience counter creatures into the Avatar Aang deck, the 5-color Aang one, and they will all feed off each other, which I think is also kind of neat. So Zuko Firebending Master, he might be a little bit too... Nah, I like him. I like him in the command zone. He might be a little bit too narrow in just mono red, but like, I don't know. I think he's very neat in the command zone. But he's also great in the 99 too of specific decks as well. But I don't know. I think he'd be fun in the command zone. And then the last Zuko is just not very interesting. Zuko Seeking Honor, not very good in Commander unless you are desperate for more firebending. But there's a way better firebending options. So finally, my friends, we reached the end, and we have the tier list fully ranked. There are a couple card images missing from the tier list because I realized like 2 hours into recording that I forgot to add like 3 of the card images. I didn't miss any during the actual review process. You saw all the cards on Scryfall and everything and the review, but on the tier list, the images that corresponded to them, I think there's like 3 of them missing, like one of the Zukos or whatever. And I was just too terrified at that point to try and add them to Tier List Maker, because if they like reset my rankings or anything, I would have had a heart attack. So yeah, if there's like 3 or so card images here that are missing, that's why. I'm so sorry. But none of the important ones. I think they're all like cabbages or maybes. But yeah, this is the end result. So again, Tomer favorites, not necessarily a power ranking thing. It's just like the ones that intrigue me the most that I will either build around, showcase on Commander Clash, budget brews, or like them for other various reasons, or I might add them to the 99 of some of my decks. So like that's basically all of them. Let's go in a little bit. Like Aang's going into Zedru, Iroh's going to Zedru. Aang, I probably just going to build an Avatar deck and have Aang lead it. Haru's Changeling, and these are all like interesting things that I might just either brew around or put into my own decks. Obviously, I'm making a Grand Voltron deck. That's like obviously great in Command Zone. These are the ones that I think are just better in the Command Zone, and they're not organized in like a power ranking scale, but like, yeah, Fire Lord Azula, I think, is going to be the strongest of the bunch. Also, Toph is very, very strong. Wen Shitong, I just think is very interesting. That's why it's up here. But like, you know, Sokka probably is more powerful than it. Katara is probably more powerful than Sokka. Who knows? Don't worry about the ordering of these things. Just the overall categories. Great in the 99. A lot of them are just more in the 99. Maybes. Again, like most of these are not made to be commanders per se. Some of them are focused on just being really enjoyable for 1v1 in like jumpstart boosters and stuff, have limited potential and whatnot. And then cabbages, same thing. Yeah, don't worry about it. But yeah, that's it, everybody. This video is absurdly long. I don't know how long it's going to be by the time I finish editing it, because I took some breaks in between, but I know the recording, breaks and all, for like 4 hours. So, whew. Oh boy, let's see what the end result's going to be. If you like all this, like and subscribe. And if you like Avatar, I have another video where I'm going to be doing Avatar precons, where I'm just making decks using only cards from the Avatar set. So every single card is Avatar themed. I know some people were requesting that of me because we don't have any Commander precons coming, official ones at least, coming with the set. So I wanted to rectify that myself. And I have a lot of brews, and also upgrade pass and all that stuff. And then, yeah, if you like more Avatar stuff, I'll probably do more Avatar budget brews in the future. Let me know which one's your favorite. So maybe I'd brew around that. I'm always open to suggestions. And yeah, that's all I got for now. I'm going to lay down and have a nap. All right. See ya.